At 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night, Gavin Brooks, a 45-year-old janitor mopping the executive floor of Chicago's most prestigious tech tower, hears something that shouldn't exist in this sterile world of glass and ambition: the raw, broken sound of someone crying. Behind the frosted doors of the corner office sits Vivian Hart, the untouchable CEO worth $3 billion, surrounded by empty whiskey bottles and the ruins of her perfectly controlled life. Company policy says walk away. Common sense says disappear. But Gavin knocks anyway, and steps into the loneliest room in the entire building. If you want to see how a janitor's kindness changes a billionaire's life forever, stay until the end. And hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights hummed their lonely midnight song as Gavin Brooks pushed his cleaning cart down the 42nd floor of Apex Technologies. His reflection ghosted across floor-to-ceiling windows that framed Chicago's glittering skyline, a view worth millions that he'd seen 1,000 times and still found beautiful. At 45, with silver threading through his dark hair and permanent smile lines around his eyes, Gavin had long ago made peace with his place in the world. He cleaned offices where decisions worth billions were made, and he did it well, with quiet dignity and the kind of thoroughness that came from caring about work most people considered beneath notice. The executive wing was always empty by this hour. The titans of tech, the VPs, the CFOs, the directors with their corner offices and their imported espresso machines, went home to their suburban mansions or downtown penthouses hours ago. That's what made the sound so jarring. Crying, soft at first, almost swallowed by the building's ambient hum, but unmistakable once Gavin stopped moving. Someone was crying in the corner office. The biggest one, the one with Vivian Hart's name on a brushed titanium placard. Gavin's first instinct was to turn around. Vivian Hart didn't cry. Vivian Hart didn't even seem entirely human most days. She was more like a force of nature packaged in designer suits and 3-inch heels, with eyes that could calculate your worth in the time it took you to say good morning. In 2 years of working this floor, Gavin had seen her maybe a dozen times, always moving fast, always talking into a phone, or surrounded by assistants scurrying to keep pace. She'd never once looked at him. Not really looked, the way you look at a person. More like he was furniture that occasionally moved. He should keep walking. Mind his own business. The unspoken rule of his profession was invisibility. See everything, acknowledge nothing, and for heaven's sake, don't get involved in the personal disasters of people who could end your employment with a phone call. But the crying continued, ragged and desperate, the kind of sound that came from someone who thought they were completely alone. And Gavin had been raised by a mother who believed that walking past someone's pain when you could help was a sin that had nothing to do with religion and everything to do with being human. He parked his cart and approached the frosted glass doors. Through the translucent barrier, he could make out a silhouette slumped in the chair behind the massive desk. The office beyond was dark except for the city lights filtering through the windows and the blue glow of a computer screen someone had forgotten to turn off. 4 bottles stood on the desk like silent sentries. One had tipped over, creating a small puddle that caught the light. Gavin raised his hand and knocked. 3 polite raps that sounded absurdly formal given the circumstance. The crying stopped instantly, cut off like someone had flipped a switch. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Then a voice, raw and wrecked and barely recognizable. Go away. Vivian Hart. Unmistakably, but stripped of all the armor, all the CEO polish, all the untouchable superiority. Ms. Hart? Gavin kept his voice gentle, the same tone he used when his daughter Lily woke from nightmares. It's Gavin, from maintenance. I wanted to make sure you're okay. I said go away. Sharper now, trying to find some of that executive authority, failing. That's not a request. I understand. Gavin didn't move. But ma'am, I can't do that. Not when you sound like you're hurting. A bitter laugh echoed from behind the glass. You can't? I'm pretty sure I'm still your boss's boss's boss. I'm pretty sure I can have security escort you out of this building permanently. You probably could, Gavin agreed, but I'm still not leaving until I know you're safe. Another silence, longer this time. Then the lock clicked, and one of the frosted doors swung open. The woman who faced him barely resembled the Vivian Hart he'd glimpsed in passing. Her dark hair, usually swept into a perfect chignon, hung loose and tangled around her shoulders. Her white blouse was unbuttoned at the collar, and mascara had created dark tracks down her cheeks. She held herself upright through what looked like sheer force of will, one hand gripping the doorframe for support. Her eyes, intelligent gray eyes that had stared down investors and crushed competitors, were red-rimmed and unfocused. She was also very clearly drunk. "There," she said, gesturing vaguely at herself. "You've seen I'm safe. Happy? Now leave me alone." "Ma'am, I don't think you should be alone right now." "You don't think?" She laughed again, that same broken sound. "You don't think? That's rich. You know what the problem is with thinking? The more you think, the more you realize how spectacularly you've fucked up everything that matters." Gavin had worked enough years in buildings full of broken people to recognize someone on the edge. "Why don't you sit down? I'll get you some water." "I don't want water, I want—" She trailed off, swaying slightly. "I don't know what I want." "That's the problem, isn't it? 42 years old, $3 billion in the bank, and I have absolutely no idea what I want." She turned and stumbled back into the office. Gavin followed, his maintenance instincts automatically cataloging the mess. The spilled whiskey, the chair knocked askew, the paper scattered across the floor like autumn leaves. On the desk, amid the bottles, sat a framed photograph face down. Vivian sank into her chair and reached for one of the bottles. "Ms. Hart, it's Vivian." She poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into a glass already sticky with previous pours. "If you're going to witness my complete breakdown, you might as well use my first name, equality, and all that." "Vivian." Gavin moved closer, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. "How much have you had to drink?" "Not nearly enough." She raised the glass to her lips. "Or maybe too much." Gavin reached out and gently took the glass from her hand. Their fingers brushed for a moment, and she looked up at him with an expression of such profound surprise that he realized no one had probably touched her, really touched her, human to human, in a very long time. "I could fire you for that," she said, "but there was no heat in it." "You could." Gavin set the glass on the desk, out of reach. "But first, tell me what happened. What brought you to drinking alone in your office at midnight?" "Nothing happened. That's the point." She laughed, but this time it cracked in the middle, and suddenly she was crying again, tears spilling down her already stained cheeks. "Nothing happened. Nothing ever happens. I woke up this morning in my $7 million penthouse, and I realized I couldn't remember the last time I felt happy. Really happy. Not satisfied with closing a deal or proud of hitting a revenue target. Actually happy." She pressed her palms against her eyes, her shoulders shaking. "I built this company from nothing. 20 years of 80-hour weeks, of sacrificing everything, of being the smartest, the toughest, the most ruthless person in every room. And I got exactly what I wanted. Apex is worth $20 billion. I'm on the Forbes list. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. And I'm so fucking lonely I can't breathe." The words tumbled out in a rush like a dam breaking. Gavin pulled over a chair, a leather thing that probably cost more than his monthly rent, and sat down across from her. 14-hour days, Vivian continued, her voice raw. "Every single day. Meetings, presentations, negotiations. I make decisions that affect thousands of people. I shape markets, I influence policy, and then I go home to an empty apartment and eat takeout standing at my kitchen counter because there's no point in sitting at a table when there's no one to sit with." She grabbed the photo frame and turned it face up. The image showed a younger Vivian, maybe in her late 20s, laughing at the camera with her arms around 2 other women. Friends, from the casual joy in their body language. "College roommates," she said quietly. "Haven't talked to either of them in 8 years. They stopped calling after I missed the 3rd wedding, or maybe the 4th baby shower, I don't remember." She set the photo down like it burned her fingers. "You know what today is? My birthday. 42 years old. My assistant sent me flowers for myself and scheduled them for delivery at the office so it would look like I had someone who cared. I approved the expense report 3 days ago." Gavin felt something crack open in his chest. He'd seen a lot of sadness working nights in corporate towers. Executives crying over divorces, Junior analysts having panic attacks in bathroom stalls, middle managers drinking themselves numb after layoffs. But this was different. This was someone who had climbed to the very top of the mountain and discovered that the view from the summit was nothing but empty sky. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "That's a terrible way to spend a birthday." Vivian looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. "Why are you being nice to me? You don't know me. For all you know, I'm a horrible person. I might be. I've destroyed competitors. I've fired people on Christmas Eve. I've made grown men cry in board meetings." "Maybe," Gavin said, "but right now you're just a person who's hurting, and I was raised to believe that matters more than job titles or bank accounts." She studied his face like she was trying to solve an equation that didn't quite add up. "Who are you? I mean, really, you're not just a janitor." "I am, actually, but I'm also a dad. Lily's 12, and I coach Little League on Saturdays, and I make a mean spaghetti carbonara, and I've read every Terry Pratchett novel at least twice." He smiled. "People are usually more than one thing." "Lily," Vivian repeated the name softly. "You have a daughter." "Had a wife too. She died 3 years ago. Cancer." The familiar ache pulsed in his chest, but time had dulled it to something he could carry. "So yeah, I know a little something about loneliness." Vivian's face crumpled. "I'm sorry. God, I'm sitting here crying about my pathetic life when you've actually lost something that matters." "Pain isn't a competition," Gavin said gently, "and what you're feeling matters. You're allowed to hurt even if you're rich. Money doesn't fix everything." "It doesn't fix anything," she whispered. "Not the things that actually matter." They sat in silence for a moment, the city lights painting geometric patterns on the walls. Finally, Gavin stood up. "Okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to call you a cab and you're going to go home and sleep this off. Tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up with a hangover and hopefully feel a little less like the world is ending. And then you're going to make some decisions about whether you want to keep living like this." Vivian shook her head. "I can't go home. I told you, it's just an empty box where I sleep sometimes. I can't—" Her voice broke. "I can't go back there tonight." Gavin considered her for a long moment. Every ounce of common sense told him to walk away, to let her call her own cab, to maintain the proper boundaries between their worlds. But his mother's voice echoed in his head, the same words she'd told him 1,000 times. "When someone's drowning, you don't check their resume before throwing them a rope." "All right," he said, "then you're coming with me." "What?" "You heard me. I'm taking you somewhere safe where you can sleep it off. No arguments." "I can't just— You can't just—" She gestured helplessly at the office, at the building, at the empire she'd constructed around herself. "I have meetings tomorrow. Cancel them, or don't. But right now, you need to sleep, and you need to not be alone, and those are the only things that matter." For the first time that night, something like hope flickered across Vivian's face. "Why are you doing this?" "Because someone should." Gavin held out his hand. "Come on, let's get out of here." She stared at his hand like it was the strangest thing she'd ever seen. This simple offer of help with no contract, no negotiation, no hidden clause. Then, slowly, she reached out and took it. Her hand was cold and she gripped his fingers like a lifeline. Getting Vivian out of the building proved easier than Gavin expected. The night security guard, Marcus, barely glanced up from his phone as they passed through the lobby. To him, they were just another executive being helped to a car by maintenance. Happened more often than people like to admit. Gavin had called a cab on their way down, and it was waiting at the curb when they emerged into the cool April night. Vivian shivered despite her expensive blazer. Gavin shrugged off his maintenance jacket and draped it around her shoulders. She looked down at the name patch, Brooks, G, and something about that simple detail made her eyes fill with tears again. "I don't even know your last name," she said. "Brooks. Gavin Brooks." Gavin Brooks." She tested the words. "Thank you, Gavin Brooks." The cab ride took 20 minutes through mostly empty streets. Vivian leaned her head against the window, watching the city slide past, and didn't say a word. Gavin gave the driver his address in Rogers Park, a neighborhood decidedly not on the same financial planet as wherever Vivian lived, and wondered if he was making a colossal mistake. His apartment building was a modest three-story walk-up that had seen better decades. The hallway smelled like Mrs. Chen's cooking from 2 doors down, and the faint chemical tang of industrial cleaner. Vivian navigated the stairs carefully, her expensive heels clicking on worn linoleum. "This is me," Gavin said, unlocking apartment 2B. Inside was small but meticulously clean, a living room with furniture that had been new when Lily was a baby, a kitchen barely big enough for 2 people, family photos covering every available surface. A child's backpack slumped by the door next to a pair of pink sneakers. The air smelled like the lavender sachets his late wife had made, the last batch she'd completed before getting too sick to continue. He kept replacing them when they faded, unable to let go of that small piece of her. "Lily's at her grandmother's tonight," Gavin explained. "Sleepover, so you can take her room. Come on." He led Vivian down the short hallway to Lily's room, walls painted purple, covered in posters of bands and movies, a small desk cluttered with school projects and colored pencils. The bed was neatly made with a constellation-patterned comforter. "I'll get you some water and aspirin," Gavin said. "Bathroom's across the hall. There are clean towels under the sink if you want to wash your face." Vivian stood in the middle of the room, looking lost and overwhelmed and younger than 42. "I don't have anything to sleep in." "Hold on." Well, Gavin disappeared and returned with a faded Chicago Cubs t-shirt and clean sweatpants. "These will be big on you, but they're comfortable." She took them, her fingers trembling slightly. "Gavin, I don't know how to... thank you doesn't seem like..." "You don't have to say anything." He smiled, and it was warm and genuine and completely without expectation. "Just get some sleep. We'll figure out tomorrow when it gets here." He left her alone, pulling the door mostly closed, and went to his own room. Through the thin walls, he heard water running in the bathroom, then the creak of Lily's bed as Vivian lay down. After a few minutes, the sound stopped and the apartment fell quiet. Gavin sat on the edge of his own bed, wondering what the hell he'd just done. Brought home a drunk billionaire, let her sleep in his daughter's bed, crossed about 17 different professional boundaries and probably a few legal ones too. But when he closed his eyes, all he could see was the look on Vivian Hart's face in that office. The rawness of someone who just realized they'd built their entire life on a foundation of sand. He knew that look. He'd seen it in the mirror plenty of times in the year after Sarah died, when he'd wondered how he was supposed to keep going without her. Someone had helped him then. His mother, Sarah's parents, their friends from the neighborhood, people who showed up with casseroles and offers to watch Lily and shoulders to cry on. People who reminded him that he wasn't alone, even when it felt like the world had ended. Maybe Vivian Hart needed someone to show her that too. Gavin woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of someone moving quietly in his kitchen. For a disoriented moment, his sleep-fogged brain supplied an impossible hope. Sarah, making breakfast like she used to, humming off-key while the coffee percolated, before reality reasserted itself. Vivian. He pulled on jeans and a clean shirt and padded barefoot to the kitchen. She stood at the counter, still wearing his Cubs shirt and sweatpants, her dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail. She'd found the coffee maker and figured out how to work it. 2 mugs sat on the counter, steam rising in the early morning light filtering through the window. She turned when she heard him and winced. "Your daughter has excellent taste in alarm clocks. That thing is merciless." Gavin glanced at the clock on the microwave. 6:47 a.m. Lily has to catch the bus at 7:15 on school days. The alarm's a survival mechanism. Right, school. Vivian wrapped her hands around one of the mugs, not the matching set from their wedding registry, but the chipped one with the cartoon dog that Lily had insisted on buying from a garage sale. "I called my driver. He'll be here in 20 minutes. I should probably get out of your hair." "You don't have to rush." Gavin poured himself coffee and leaned against the counter. "How's your head?" "Like someone's using it as a timpani." She managed a weak smile. "The aspirin helped. Thank you. For everything. I don't usually..." She stopped, her face flushing. "Last night was not my finest moment." "Last night you were human," Gavin said. "Nothing wrong with that." "Human." She turned the word over like an unfamiliar concept. "Is that what we're calling spectacular drunken meltdowns now?" "I'm calling it what happens when you carry too much alone for too long." He met her eyes over his coffee mug. Everyone breaks sometimes, Vivian. The trick is making sure you've got someone around to help you put the pieces back together. She was quiet for a long moment, studying the chipped mug in her hands. Can I ask you something? Why did you help me? You could have just walked past, pretended you didn't hear anything. It would have been easier. Probably, Gavin agreed, but my mom raised me to believe that easier isn't always the same as right. Your mom sounds like a good person. She was, died 5 years ago. Stroke. He smiled, but it was edged with old grief. She would have liked you. Vivian laughed, startled. She would have liked the crying drunk billionaire? I doubt that. She would have liked the person brave enough to admit when she's struggling. That takes more guts than most people have. The words hung in the kitchen air, simple and true. Vivian's expression shifted through several emotions too quickly for Gavin to track before settling into something that looked dangerously close to tears again. I don't know how to do this, she said quietly. Be a person. Outside of work, I mean. I've forgotten how. It's not that complicated, Gavin said. You just show up. Be honest. Let people in. Let people in. She repeated it like he'd suggested something radical. Everyone wants something from me. Access, money, connections, opportunities. How am I supposed to know who actually cares and who's just working an angle? Gavin considered that. I guess you can't know for sure, but the alternative is living like you were last night, safe behind walls nobody can cross, including you. A car horn honked outside. Vivian's driver, probably. She set down the mug carefully, like it might break if she wasn't gentle enough. I should go, change, shower, try to remember how to be Vivian Hart, CEO, instead of... She gestured at herself in his clothes. Instead of Vivian Hart person. Gavin smiled. Those don't have to be different people, you know? She looked at him for a long moment, and he could see her wrestling with something. Finally, she said, Would it be completely inappropriate if I asked to see you again? Not at work? Just, I don't know, coffee? Every rational voice in Gavin's head screamed that this was a terrible idea. She was a billionaire. He was a janitor who cleaned her office. They existed in different universes that only overlapped in the narrow band of her paying his employer to keep her workspace pristine. Getting involved, even as friends, was asking for complications he couldn't afford. But he remembered her face in that office, the desperate loneliness in her voice, the way she'd gripped his hand like she was drowning. And he thought about what his mother would say. Friday afternoon, he said. There's a diner 2 blocks from here. Lou's. Best coffee in Rogers Park and pancakes that'll change your life. 4 o'clock. Friday at 4. Vivian's smile was small but real, the first genuine one he'd seen from her. Thank you, Gavin. For last night. For this morning. For not treating me like I'm made of glass or dollar signs. You're welcome. And Vivian? For what it's worth, I think you're going to be okay. The horn honked again, more insistent. Vivian gathered her work clothes from where they'd been draped over Lily's desk chair, and Gavin walked her to the door. At the threshold, she paused. I'll see you Friday, she said. Friday, he confirmed. He watched from the window as she crossed the street to a gleaming black town car. The driver held the door, and she slipped inside, back into her world. The car pulled away, and Gavin stood there holding his coffee, wondering what he'd just agreed to. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother-in-law. Lily wants to know if she can stay another night. Something about a movie marathon with her grandmother. Is that okay? Gavin smiled and texted back his approval. Then he looked around his small apartment, at the photos of his wife, at the evidence of his simple life, and tried to imagine what Friday afternoon would bring. He had absolutely no idea. But for the first time in a long time, he found himself looking forward to finding out. Friday arrived wrapped in the kind of spring sunshine that made Chicago feel almost optimistic. Gavin finished his morning shift at Apex, a different floor, nowhere near the executive wing, and headed home to shower and change. He told himself this was just coffee with someone who needed a friend. Nothing complicated, nothing that would disrupt the careful balance of his life. He told himself that right up until he walked into Lou's diner at 3:55 and saw Vivian Hart sitting in a back booth, wearing jeans and a simple sweater, looking more nervous than he'd ever seen anyone look over coffee. She'd arrived early. That detail struck him immediately. Vivian Hart, who probably had assistants to manage her calendar down to the minute, sitting alone in a neighborhood diner 15 minutes before their agreed time. She was stirring sugar into a cup of coffee she clearly hadn't touched, her eyes fixed on the Formica tabletop like it held answers to questions she didn't know how to ask. When she looked up and saw him, relief washed across her face so plainly it made his chest tight. "You came," she said. Gavin slid into the booth across from her. "Did you think I wouldn't?" "I thought maybe you'd wake up and realize this was a strange idea. A billionaire and a janitor having coffee. It sounds like the setup to a joke." "Does it?" Gavin signaled to Lou behind the counter, a gesture that meant his usual, and turned his attention back to Vivian. "Seems to me like two people having coffee. The rest is just noise." Lou appeared with a coffee pot and a mug that had seen better decades. He was 70, if he was a day, with the kind of face that suggested he'd heard every story worth telling and a few that weren't. He poured Gavin's coffee with the casual precision of 40 years' practice, then glanced at Vivian with open curiosity. "You gonna actually drink that, miss, or just keep drowning it in sugar?" Vivian blinked, clearly unused to being addressed with such casual directness. Yes. Sorry. Don't apologize, just wondering if you wanted a refill or if you're planning to stir a hole through the bottom of the cup." Lou winked at Gavin. "Your usual, Gav? And what about your friend here?" "Pancakes," Gavin said. "And Vivian?" She looked at the laminated menu like it was written in a foreign language. "What's good?" "Everything," Lou said with the confidence of a man who'd been making the same 12 dishes perfectly for 4 decades. "But if it's your first time, I'd recommend the pancakes. Gavin's got good taste." "Pancakes, then," Vivian said. Lou nodded and shuffled back toward the kitchen, leaving them in a bubble of noise. The clatter of dishes, the murmur of other conversations, the hiss of the griddle. Normal sounds. The kind Vivian probably hadn't heard in years. "This place is wonderful," she said quietly, looking around at the worn booths and the chipped linoleum and the photographs of old Chicago covering the walls. "How long have you been coming here?" "Since I moved to the neighborhood 12 years ago. Sarah and I used to bring Lily here when she was a baby. Lou would let her sit on the counter and help make chocolate milk." The memory was bittersweet but no longer sharp enough to cut. After Sarah died, Lou kept an eye on us. Made sure we ate. Sometimes I'd find an extra sandwich in my to-go bag, or he'd claim Lily's meal was on the house because she'd smiled at him. Vivian's expression softened. "People took care of you." "Yeah, they did." Gavin took a sip of his coffee. Black, hot, perfect. "That's what people do, when you let them." She absorbed that in silence, and Gavin could see her processing the concept like it was a radical new business model. Finally, she said, "I don't know how to do that. Let people take care of me. I've spent 20 years being the one who takes care of everything. Maybe it's time to learn." "Is that why you agreed to meet me? To teach me how to be a normal person?" There was no edge in her voice, just genuine curiosity. "I agreed to meet you because you asked," Gavin said simply. "And because I think you could use a friend who doesn't want anything from you except your company." Vivian's eyes filled, just for a second, before she blinked the tears away. "That's a rarer commodity than you'd think." Lou returned with 2 plates stacked high with pancakes, fluffy, golden, swimming in butter and real maple syrup. The smell alone was enough to make Vivian's stomach audibly growl. She looked embarrassed, but Gavin just laughed. "When's the last time you ate?" he asked. "I had a protein bar in my car this morning." "Maybe." "Yesterday morning? Time gets weird when you're constantly in meetings." "Eat," Gavin said, picking up his fork. "Everything's easier on a full stomach." They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes, and Gavin watched as Vivian took her first bite and her entire face transformed. Wonder, pure and unguarded, like a kid tasting ice cream for the first time. "Oh my God," she said. "These are incredible." "Told you. Lou's a magician with breakfast food." She took another bite, then another, and Gavin realized she was actually hungry, not just physically but in some deeper way, starving for something as simple as a good meal in a warm place with no agenda attached. They worked through their pancakes, and gradually Vivian started to relax. Her shoulders dropped. The tension around her eyes eased. She asked about the photos on the walls, and Gavin told her stories about old Chicago, about the neighborhood, about the butcher shop that used to be where the dry cleaner was now. You really love this place, Vivian observed. The neighborhood, I mean, not just the diner. I do. It's home. People know each other here. Look out for each other. He gestured toward the window. Mrs. Chen, 3 doors down from me, watches Lily sometimes when I'm working late. The guy who runs the corner store lets kids come in after school to do homework at the tables in back. It's not fancy, but it's real. Vivian was quiet for a moment, pushing the last piece of pancake around her plate. I live in a building where I don't know my neighbors' names. I've been there 6 years. That sounds lonely. It is. She set down her fork. Gavin, can I ask you something? And will you promise to be honest, even if the answer is no? All right. She took a breath, and he could see her gathering courage. Would you be willing to spend time with me? Not just today. Regularly. I know it's a strange request, and I know we're from completely different worlds, but She stopped, recalibrating. I'm trying to say that I'd like to be friends. Real friends. If you're willing. Gavin studied her carefully. This wasn't the CEO making a business proposition. This was someone lonely and scared, reaching out for connection in the only way she knew how, by asking directly for what she needed. I'd like that, he said. But Vivian, I need you to understand something. I'm a single dad. Lily comes first, always. I can't drop everything for coffee meetings or last-minute dinners. My schedule is built around her school, her activities, her needs. I understand. I wouldn't ask you to. Let me finish. His voice was gentle but firm. I'm happy to be your friend, but it has to work both ways. You can't just show up when you're having a crisis and disappear when things are good. Friendship is consistent. It's about showing up even when it's not convenient. Vivian nodded slowly. You're right. That's fair. And honestly, I don't know if I know how to do that, but I want to learn. Then we'll figure it out together. Gavin smiled. Fair warning, though, being my friend means you'll probably end up at Little League games and school plays. Lily's got a recital next month, and I'm required to attend and clap enthusiastically, even when the violin section sounds like cats in a blender. For the first time, Vivian laughed, really laughed, bright and genuine. I haven't been to a school recital since I was in school. Well, you're in for a treat, or possibly an endurance test. Hard to say. They talked for another hour, the conversation flowing easier than Gavin would have thought possible. Vivian asked about Lily, and he found himself telling stories. The time she'd decided to give herself a haircut the night before school pictures, the elaborate pulley system she'd engineered to get cookies from the top shelf, the way she'd held his hand at Sarah's funeral and whispered that Mom was probably organizing Heaven's filing systems by now. She sounds amazing, Vivian said softly. She is. Smart as hell and stubborn as a mule. Gets that from her mother. He pulled out his phone and showed Vivian his lock screen, a photo of Lily at her last birthday, covered in frosting and grinning like a maniac. Vivian stared at the image for a long moment. She has your smile. She has Sarah's everything else, thank God. The kid's going to be brilliant. Pride and love saturated every word. She wants to be an engineer, already building things, taking apart appliances I need, leaving circuit boards all over the apartment. An engineer? That's wonderful. Vivian handed back the phone. Does she know? About me, I mean. About that night? No, she was at her grandmother's, remember? And I didn't think it was my story to tell. Relief flickered across Vivian's face. Thank you. I'd rather she not think of me as the drunk lady who crashed in her room. She's not going to think of you at all unless you want her to, Gavin said. This friendship, whatever it looks like, it's separate from Lily, unless you decide otherwise. But even as he said it, he felt the first tremor of complication. Because the truth was, his life and Lily's life were completely intertwined. There was no keeping things separate, not really. Sooner or later, Vivian would have to meet his daughter, or this friendship would exist in a strange, compartmentalized space that wasn't sustainable. Vivian seemed to sense his hesitation. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that I just told you Lily comes first, and then I implied I'd keep you away from her. That's not really fair to either of you. You're protecting her. That's what good parents do. Maybe. Or maybe I'm overthinking this. Gavin signaled Lou for the check. How about we take this slow? See how it goes. If you're still around in a few weeks, we'll talk about introductions." "If I'm still around," Vivian repeated. "You think I'm going to bail?" "I think you're going to get busy. Go back to your real life. Realize that slumming it with the janitor was a nice distraction, but not something you actually want long term." The words came out harsher than he intended, and Vivian flinched like he'd slapped her. "Is that what you think this is?" Her voice was quiet, controlled. "A distraction? Me slumming it? Isn't it?" Gavin met her eyes. "Vivian, look around. Look at where we are. Look at who I am. In 2 weeks, you're going to be back in board meetings and investor calls, and I'm going to be mopping floors and packing Lily's lunches. Our worlds don't overlap." "They're overlapping right now." "For how long?" The question hung between them, sharp and uncomfortable. Lou appeared with the check, took one look at their faces, and set it down without a word before disappearing again. Vivian reached for the check, but Gavin got there first. "I've got it," he said. "Gavin, I asked you to coffee. I'm buying." He pulled out his wallet, counted bills onto the table. "That's how this works." "How what works?" "Friendship, normal friendship, where people take turns paying for coffee and nobody calculates the economic disparity." Vivian sat back, something unreadable in her expression. "You're testing me." "No, I'm being honest with you. You asked for that, remember?" "I did." She folded her hands on the table, and for a moment she looked every bit the CEO, composed, analytical, ready to negotiate. "Then let me be honest back. You're right that our worlds are different. You're right that I'm probably going to get pulled back into the chaos of running Apex. But you're wrong about why I'm here." "Why are you here?" "Because for the first time in 15 years, I sat across from someone who looked at me and saw a person. Not a net worth, not a business opportunity, not a step on some ladder. Just me." Her voice cracked slightly. "And that feeling was so foreign and so precious that I'd be an idiot to walk away from it." Gavin felt something shift in his chest, some wall he'd been maintaining crumbling under the weight of her sincerity. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay. I'm sorry. That wasn't fair." "It was fair. You're protecting yourself and Lily. I respect that." She stood up, gathering her purse. "But Gavin, I need you to know something. I don't have a lot of experience with real friendship. I'm probably going to mess this up. I'm probably going to say the wrong thing or do something tone-deaf or accidentally make you feel like I'm treating you like an employee. When I do, please call me on it. Please be honest. Because I want this to work." The raw vulnerability in her voice made Gavin's throat tight. He stood too, and on impulse he held out his hand. "Friends?" he said. Vivian looked at his hand, then at his face, and smiled, that same small, real smile from his apartment. She took his hand and shook it firmly. "Friends," she agreed. They walked out of Lou's together into the late afternoon sunshine. On the sidewalk, Vivian paused. "So what happens now?" "Now you go back to your life, and I go pick up Lily from her grandmother's. And maybe next Friday we do this again." "Next Friday," Vivian said. "Same time?" "Same time." She started toward a black town car parked half a block down, then turned back. "Gavin, thank you for giving me a chance. Thank you for asking for one." He watched her drive away, then headed home, his mind spinning. He'd just made friends with a billionaire, a lonely, broken billionaire who seemed genuinely interested in being part of his decidedly unglamorous life. It was either the best decision he'd made in years or the worst, and he had absolutely no idea which. When he picked up Lily from her grandmother's house that evening, she was full of stories about the movie marathon and the popcorn they'd made and how Grandma had let her stay up until midnight. She chattered all the way home, and Gavin let her words wash over him, grateful for the normalcy of it. "Dad?" Lily said as they climbed the stairs to the apartment. "You're being weird." "Weird how?" "Quiet weird. You're usually all, 'How was your day, pumpkin?' and 'Tell me 3 good things,' but you're just thinking." Smart kid. Too smart for her own good sometimes. Gavin unlocked the door and let them in. "I had an interesting day," he admitted. "Made a new friend." Lily dumped her overnight bag by the door and looked at him with open curiosity. "What kind of friend?" "Just a person I met at work, someone who needed help." "Oh." She processed that. Like when you helped Mr. Chen move his furniture. Or like when you stayed late to help that lady find her wedding ring in the trash. Something like that. Lily studied him with those sharp 12-year-old eyes that saw way too much. You look happy, though. Like it was a good kind of help. Yeah, Gavin said, ruffling her hair. Yeah, it was. Friday became their ritual. Every week, Gavin and Vivian met at Lou's for pancakes and coffee, and conversation that gradually peeled back layers neither of them had shown anyone in years. Vivian talked about the pressure of running Apex, the constant scrutiny, the way every decision she made affected thousands of people. Gavin talked about Lily, about the challenges of single parenting, about keeping Sarah's memory alive while still moving forward. The third week, Vivian showed up with dark circles under her eyes and hands that trembled around her coffee cup. Bad week? Gavin asked. Hostile takeover attempt. Spent 70 hours in war rooms with lawyers and investment bankers, fighting off a private equity firm that wants to gut Apex and sell the pieces. She laughed, but it was hollow. Won, obviously. But it was close, and I'm exhausted. And I spent last night staring at my ceiling, wondering why I'm killing myself to protect a company I'm not even sure I like anymore. Do you like it? The company? Vivian was quiet for a long time. I used to, when it was small and scrappy and I knew everyone's name. Now it's this massive thing with 10,000 employees and offices in 12 countries, and I'm just trying to keep it from imploding while pretending I have all the answers. You don't have to have all the answers. I'm the CEO. That's literally my job. No, Gavin said gently. Your job is to ask the right questions and trust people to help you find answers. Nobody can do it alone, Vivian, not even billionaire CEOs. She looked at him like he'd said something profound instead of basic common sense. You make it sound simple. It is simple. Not easy, but simple. He pushed his coffee cup aside and leaned forward. Here's what I know about you after 3 weeks. You're brilliant, you're driven, you work harder than anyone I've ever met, and you're so convinced you have to carry everything alone that you've forgotten how to ask for help. That's not strength, Vivian. That's fear. Her face went pale. Fear of what? Fear that if you let people in, they'll see you're not invincible. Fear that if you admit you're struggling, you'll lose the authority you've spent 20 years building. Fear that being human is the same as being weak. Vivian's eyes filled with tears that she blinked back furiously. You don't pull punches, do you? You asked for honesty. I did. She grabbed a napkin and pressed it to her eyes. God, I'm crying in Lou's diner. This is becoming a pattern with you. Better here than alone in your office with a bottle of whiskey. That surprised a laugh out of her. Wet and shaky, but real. Fair point. Lou appeared with the coffee pot and refilled both their cups without comment, though his eyes lingered on Vivian's tear-stained face with something like paternal concern before he shuffled away. I don't know how to change, Vivian said quietly. This is who I've been for so long. I don't know how to be anything else. Start small. Delegate one thing you'd normally control. Ask your team for input instead of just issuing orders. Admit when you're tired instead of pretending you're a machine. And if that makes me look weak, it'll make you look human, and people respond to that better than perfection. She absorbed that, stirring sugar into already sweet coffee. Gavin, can I ask you something personal? Haven't you been doing that for 3 weeks? Not like this. She met his eyes. After Sarah died, how did you keep going? How did you not just collapse? The question hit deeper than he expected. Gavin took a moment, remembering that first terrible year. I didn't have a choice. Lily needed me. She'd lost her mom. She couldn't lose me too, even to grief. So I got up every morning and made breakfast and packed lunches and drove her to school, and some days that was all I could manage. But it was enough. You make it sound easy. It wasn't. Some days I cried in the shower where Lily couldn't hear me. Some nights I sat in Sarah's closet surrounded by her clothes because I couldn't bear to pack them away. But I had people. Sarah's parents, my neighbors, friends who brought food and watched Lily when I needed to break down. They kept me from drowning. You had a support system. Yeah. And you need one too, Vivian. You can't do this alone. She looked down at her hands. I wouldn't know where to start. You already started. You're here, aren't you? Something shifted in her expression then, some decision being made. She reached into her purse and pulled out a checkbook. I want to do something, she said. For you and Lily. A thank you for… Stop right there. Gavin's voice was firm. We're not doing this. Doing what? I just want to help. Let me pay off your car or… No. Gavin, I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. It would mean nothing to me and everything to you. Exactly. He kept his voice level, but left no room for argument. Vivian, listen to me. This friendship works because we're equals. The moment you start writing checks, you become the billionaire patron and I become the charity case. That's not friendship. That's a transaction. She looked stricken. I didn't mean it like that. I just wanted to help. I know, but that's not help I need or want. If you want to help, keep showing up. Keep being honest. Keep learning how to be a friend. That's worth more than money. Vivian closed the checkbook and put it away, her hands shaking slightly. I'm sorry, you're right. I don't know how else to show people I care. Try words. Try showing up when things are hard. Try asking what someone needs instead of assuming you know. Gavin's voice softened. Money's easy, Vivian. Connection is hard. Don't take the easy way out. She nodded, blinking back fresh tears. This is harder than running $1 billion company. Yeah, well, people are complicated. Spreadsheets aren't. That got another laugh out of her, and the tension broke. They finished their coffee and pancakes, and when they parted on the sidewalk, Vivian hugged him, quick and awkward, like she wasn't entirely sure how hugs worked but wanted to try anyway. Thank you, she whispered, for not letting me ruin this. We're still figuring it out, Gavin said, both of us. He watched her drive away and realized that somewhere in the last month, Vivian Hart had stopped being the drunk CEO he'd helped one night and started being someone he actually cared about. The thought should have scared him more than it did. The change came slowly, then all at once. By their 6th Friday, Vivian had started to look different. Not in obvious ways, but in the subtle markers of someone learning to breathe again. She laughed more easily. The permanent tension in her shoulders had eased. She'd started wearing jeans and sweaters instead of power suits, and the transformation made her look younger, more approachable, more real. She'd also started showing up in Gavin's life outside their Friday ritual. The first time was a Tuesday evening when Gavin's phone rang just as he was helping Lily with her math homework, an unknown number which he almost didn't answer. Gavin, it's Vivian. I'm sorry to call like this, but I'm having a crisis and I don't know who else to talk to. His first thought was the office, whiskey, another breakdown. What's wrong? Where are you? I'm in my apartment staring at my refrigerator, which contains exactly 1 bottle of white wine, 3 takeout containers I'm afraid to open, and something that used to be lettuce. I just realized I haven't cooked a meal in my own kitchen in probably 5 years, and I have no idea why that's making me so sad. Relief and amusement warred in his chest. That's your crisis? Your refrigerator? It sounds stupid when you say it like that. It's not stupid. It's actually kind of sad. He glanced at Lily, who was watching him with open curiosity. Have you eaten dinner? Does coffee count? No, absolutely not. He made a decision that was probably reckless, but felt right. Can you get to Rogers Park in 30 minutes? I can be there in 20 if traffic cooperates. Then come over. We're having spaghetti carbonara, and there's plenty. The silence on the other end stretched long enough that Gavin thought she might have hung up. Then quietly, are you sure? I don't want to intrude on your time with Lily. You're not intruding. You're a friend who needs a home-cooked meal. Come over. He gave her the address she already had from that first night, then hung up before she could second guess. Lily was staring at him with wide eyes. Who was that? A friend from work. She's coming for dinner. A she-friend? Lily's tone carried that particular brand of 12-year-old speculation that made Gavin's stomach clench. A friend who happens to be female, yes. Don't make it weird, Lil. I'm not making it weird. You're making it weird by telling me not to make it weird. She grinned, entirely too pleased with herself. Is she nice? She's complicated, but yeah, I think you'll like her. They scrambled to make the apartment presentable. Lily cleared her engineering projects off the dining table while Gavin tackled the dishes and started water boiling for pasta. He was whisking eggs when the doorbell rang 23 minutes later. Vivian stood in the hallway holding a bakery box and looking more nervous than he'd ever seen her, even that first night in Lou's. "I brought dessert," she said, thrusting the box forward. "I didn't know what kind Lily likes, so I got an assortment. Cookies, brownies, some kind of chocolate thing the woman at the bakery said was life-changing." "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to. I'm meeting your daughter. That feels like a bring dessert situation." Gavin took the box and stepped aside to let her in. Lily had positioned herself in the living room, trying to look casual but clearly buzzing with curiosity. The moment Vivian crossed the threshold, her eyes locked on the girl with an intensity that would have been unsettling if Gavin didn't recognize it for what it was: desperate hope that this wouldn't go badly. "Lily," Gavin said, "this is my friend Vivian. Vivian, this is Lily." Lily stood up and did something that surprised both adults. She walked over and stuck out her hand for a formal handshake. "It's nice to meet you, Ms. Vivian. Dad says you're complicated, which I think is code for interesting." Vivian laughed, startled and genuine, and shook Lily's hand. "Your dad's not wrong, and please, just Vivian. Ms. Vivian makes me sound like someone's grandmother." "Are you somebody's grandmother?" "Lily," Gavin warned. "What?" "It's a legitimate question. Mrs. Chen is somebody's grandmother, and she's only 50. Vivian's smile widened. "No, I'm not anyone's grandmother, or mother, or aunt. I'm just Vivian, who apparently doesn't know how to grocery shop and got invited to dinner out of pity." "It wasn't pity," Gavin said. "It was concern for your nutritional well-being." "Same thing." "Not even close." Lily watched this exchange with bright, assessing eyes, and Gavin could practically see the calculations happening in her 12-year-old brain. Then she apparently reached a conclusion because she smiled. The real smile, not the polite one she used on teachers and her grandmother's church friends. "You can sit next to me at dinner," Lily announced. "But fair warning, Dad's carbonara is really good, and I usually eat like 3 servings, so if you want seconds, you have to grab them fast." "Noted," Vivian said solemnly. "I'll be strategic." Dinner was chaotic in the best possible way. Gavin cooked while Lily peppered Vivian with questions. "What do you do for work? What's your favorite color? Have you seen the new Marvel movie? Do you like science? What's the coolest place you've ever traveled? Do you think dogs are better than cats?" Vivian answered each question with surprising patience, and Gavin watched as she gradually relaxed, her corporate polish giving way to something more natural. When they finally sat down to eat, Lily was in the middle of explaining her current engineering project, a pulley system to deliver snacks from the kitchen to her room, when she suddenly stopped mid-sentence and stared at Vivian. "Wait, you're wearing Dad's Cubs shirt." Gavin's fork paused halfway to his mouth. Vivian went very still. "What?" Lily looked between them, confusion morphing into suspicion. "That's Dad's shirt, the one that went missing from the laundry like 2 months ago. Why are you wearing it?" Vivian looked at Gavin with barely concealed panic. He could see her calculating lies, dismissals, ways to deflect. He shook his head slightly and turned to his daughter. "Vivian stayed here one night when she was having a rough time and needed somewhere safe to sleep. She borrowed the shirt. I told her she could keep it." Lily processed this with the seriousness of a federal judge. "Was it the night I was at Grandma's? The Friday I stayed over?" "Yeah." "And you let her sleep in my room?" "I did." More processing. Then Lily turned to Vivian. "Did my room smell like the lavender spray Dad uses on my sheets? He thinks I don't know, but I totally know." Vivian's expression softened. "It did. It smelled lovely. And your book collection is impressive. I didn't know there were that many volumes in the Percy Jackson series. There's also Heroes of Olympus and the Kane Chronicles and the Magnus Chase books. Rick Riordan is a genius." Lily took a huge bite of pasta, chewed thoughtfully, then said through a half-full mouth, "So you were sad, and Dad helped you?" "Lily, manners," Gavin said. She swallowed. "Sorry, but were you?" Vivian met the girl's eyes with unexpected honesty. "Yes. I was having one of the worst nights of my life, and your dad was kind to me when he didn't have to be. He probably saved me from making some really bad decisions." "Like what?" Lily, it's okay, Vivian said quietly. Like drinking too much and driving home when I shouldn't have, or spending the night alone when I was in a really dark place. Lily absorbed this with a gravity that seemed too old for 12. My mom used to say that Dad has a superhero complex. She said he can't walk past someone who needs help without stopping. The casual mention of Sarah hung in the air for a moment. Gavin felt the familiar ache, but also something warm, pride that Lily could talk about her mother without falling apart, grateful that Sarah's memory was honored instead of avoided. Your mom sounds like she was smart, Vivian said. She was. Lily's voice was matter-of-fact, the way kids learn to talk about dead parents when they'd had enough therapy. She died when I was 9. Cancer. I'm sorry, that must have been really hard. It was. Still is sometimes. But Dad's really good at the parent thing, so we're okay. She looked at her father with fierce love. Right, Dad? Right, Pumpkin. Gavin's throat was tight. We're okay. They finished dinner in easier silence, and then Lily insisted on showing Vivian her room. So you can see it when it's not being used as emergency housing. They disappeared down the hall, and Gavin could hear Lily's voice explaining her various projects, her organizing system, the posters on her walls. When they returned 15 minutes later, Vivian's eyes were suspiciously bright. Your daughter, she said to Gavin, is going to change the world someday. I know, he said simply. They opened the bakery box and discovered an embarrassment of desserts. Lily tried one of everything while explaining her theory about why chocolate chip cookies were mathematically superior to oatmeal raisin. Vivian listened like Lily was presenting a doctoral thesis, asking follow-up questions and nodding seriously. At 8:30, Gavin announced it was bedtime. Lily groaned but didn't fight it. School night rules were non-negotiable. She hugged her dad, then surprised everyone by hugging Vivian too. Thanks for coming over, she said. You should come back sometime. Maybe you could help me with my pulley system. Dad's good at fixing things, but you seem like you'd understand the physics better. Vivian looked genuinely touched. I'd like that very much. After Lily disappeared to brush her teeth, Vivian helped Gavin clean up the dinner dishes. They worked in comfortable silence until she said, very quietly, Thank you for that. For dinner? For trusting me with her. For not hiding me away or treating me like some shameful secret. For letting me be part of something normal and beautiful and real. Gavin dried a plate and put it away. Lily's a good judge of character. If she didn't like you, you'd know. The fact that she hugged you means you passed some kind of test I didn't even know she was administering. She's wonderful, Gavin. Truly. You've done an amazing job. We've done an amazing job. Me and Sarah and her grandparents and the whole village it takes. He turned to face her. That thing you said about being alone? That's a choice, Vivian. You don't have to keep making it. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the dishwater. I'm starting to see that. When Lily was tucked in and the apartment was quiet, Gavin walked Vivian to the door. She lingered on the threshold, her coat in her hands. Can I tell you something? She said. Tonight was one of the best nights I've had in years. Just sitting around a table, eating pasta, listening to a 12-year-old explain cookie mathematics. It was perfect. It was normal, Gavin corrected gently. For you, maybe. For me, it was revelation. She pulled on her coat. Same time Friday? Lou's? Actually, I was thinking maybe you could skip Lou's this week. Come here instead. Lily's got a school thing Thursday night, science fair presentation. You could come to that if you want, and then we'll do Pizza Friday. Lily's been lobbying for this place that has arcade games. Vivian's face lit up with something close to joy. You want me to come to Lily's science fair? Only if you want to, no pressure. I want to, absolutely. What time? 6:30. But Vivian, fair warning, it's going to be loud and chaotic and full of sticky children and parents with camcorders. It's not glamorous. I don't want glamorous, she said fiercely. I want this. Whatever this is, friendship, family, normal life, I want it. After she left, Gavin stood in his quiet apartment and wondered what he'd just done. Inviting Vivian to Lily's science fair felt like crossing some invisible line, making this friendship into something more permanent, more real, more risky. Dad? Lily's voice came from her bedroom. You still up? He walked down the hall and poked his head in. She was supposed to be asleep, but was clearly wide awake, staring at her ceiling. "What's up, Pumpkin?" "Is Vivian your girlfriend?" Gavin's heart did something complicated. "No, she's my friend, just my friend." "But you like her." "I like lots of people. Not like this." Lily rolled over to look at him. "You get this look when she's around, like you're happy but also nervous. It's the same look you had in that picture with Mom at your wedding, Grandma showed me." The observation was so astute it physically hurt. "Lily." "I'm not mad, Dad. I'm just saying I see it." She picked at her comforter. "Would it be okay if you liked someone that way again?" "Is it okay with you?" Gavin sat on the edge of her bed. "Because you're the most important person in my life, and I would never do anything that hurt you." Lily thought about it seriously. "I think Mom would want you to be happy, and I think Vivian's sad like you were sad after Mom died. Maybe you could help each other not be so sad anymore." The wisdom of children never failed to destroy him. Gavin pulled his daughter into a hug, pressing his face into her hair that smelled like strawberry shampoo. "When did you get so smart?" "I've always been smart. You just don't always notice because you're busy being the dad." He laughed despite the emotion clogging his throat. "Fair point. Now go to sleep. School tomorrow." "Will you tell me if Vivian becomes more than a friend?" "I don't want to be surprised." "I promise. Now sleep." Back in his own room, Gavin lay in bed staring at the ceiling just like his daughter, thinking about Vivian's face when Lily hugged her, thinking about how she'd looked sitting at his dining table like she belonged there, thinking about how dangerous it was to let himself care this much. Thursday night arrived wrapped in unseasonably warm May weather. Gavin and Lily got to the school early so she could set up her science fair project, an ambitious demonstration of potential and kinetic energy involving ramps, magnets, and a complicated track system she'd built from scratch. She was vibrating with nervous excitement, adjusting her display board for the 10th time when Vivian appeared in the gymnasium doorway. She'd dressed down, slacks and a simple blouse, but she still drew stares from other parents who seemed to sense she didn't quite belong in this world of bake sales and PTA meetings. She spotted them and waved, weaving through the displays toward Lily's station. "You made it," Lily said, her face splitting into a grin. "I wouldn't miss it." Vivian surveyed the project with genuine interest. "This is impressive, Lily. Explain how it works." For the next 20 minutes, Lily walked Vivian through every detail of her project. The physics behind her design, the challenges she'd encountered, the modifications she'd made. Vivian asked questions that demonstrated she actually understood engineering principles, and Lily glowed under the attention. Other parents started arriving, filling the gym with noise and chaos. Gavin stood back and watched Vivian interact with his daughter, and something in his chest expanded painfully. This woman who ran a billion-dollar company was crouched next to a 12-year-old science fair project, discussing coefficient of friction with the same intensity she probably brought to board meetings. When the judges came around, Vivian stepped back to stand beside Gavin. "She's brilliant," Vivian murmured. "The design is actually more sophisticated than some prototypes I've seen from college interns." "She gets it from her mother. Sarah was the engineer. I just clean things." "You do a lot more than clean things, Gavin." Vivian's voice was soft. "You raised that incredible girl." They watched Lily present to the judges, her confidence growing with each question she fielded. When the judges moved on, she looked back at Gavin and Vivian, and her entire face said, "Please tell me I did okay." Gavin gave her a double thumbs up. Vivian mouthed, "Perfect." The winners wouldn't be announced until the end of the evening, so they wandered through the other projects, Vivian asking thoughtful questions that made several students light up. She had a gift for making people feel seen, Gavin realized. When she turned off the CEO armor and just existed as herself, she was magnetic. They ended up in the hallway where a table offered sad coffee and store-bought cookies. Vivian grabbed 2 cups and handed one to Gavin. "Thank you for inviting me," she said. "This is wonderful. It's a middle school science fair. The bar for wonderful seems low." "The bar for wonderful is human connection and watching people you care about succeed. By that metric, this is perfect." Before Gavin could respond, another parent approached, Susan Martinez, whose daughter was in Lily's class and whose ability to extract gossip rivaled any intelligence agency. "Gavin, I didn't know you were seeing anyone. You should have said something." She extended a hand to Vivian. "I'm Susan. My daughter Emily is the Volcano Project." Vivian. She shook Susan's hand with the polished ease of someone used to networking. "I'm a friend of Gavin's." A friend. Susan's tone suggested she didn't believe that for a second. "That's wonderful. Gavin deserves someone special. He's been alone too long since Sarah passed." Gavin felt his jaw clench. Susan meant well, but her nosiness was legendary in the neighborhood. "We're just friends," he said firmly. "Vivian's been kind enough to take an interest in Lily's projects." Of course, of course." Susan was already looking Vivian up and down, cataloging expensive clothes and calculating what story she could spread. "Well, it's lovely to meet you. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you." She drifted away, and Vivian looked at Gavin with barely suppressed amusement. "We're going to be the subject of neighborhood gossip, aren't we?" "Absolutely. By tomorrow morning, half of Rogers Park will have us engaged." "Is that going to be a problem?" Gavin considered the question seriously. "Depends. Does it bother you to be linked to a janitor? Does it bother you to be linked to a billionaire?" They looked at each other, and something passed between them. Acknowledgement of the complications they were dancing around, recognition that this friendship had already become something neither of them quite knew how to name. "No," Gavin said finally. "It doesn't bother me." "Good, because I don't care what anyone thinks." She sipped her terrible coffee. "Though I have to say, if we were going to start dating, I'd hope you'd ask me properly instead of letting Susan Martinez announce it." But the casual hypothetical hit Gavin like a freight train. "Vivian, relax, I'm teasing." But her eyes held something that wasn't entirely teasing. "Mostly." Before he could formulate a response, Lily appeared, practically bouncing with excitement. "They're about to announce the winners. Come on." They followed her back to the gym where families clustered around the small stage. The principal droned through third place, second place, and then first place in Lily's division. First place for exceptional demonstration of applied physics, Lily Brooks. Lily's shriek of joy was probably heard in the next county. She sprinted to the stage to accept her ribbon, and when she looked back at Gavin and Vivian, her smile was incandescent. Gavin felt his eyes burn. Sarah should have been here for this. Sarah should have been the one watching their daughter win first place, the one Lily looked for in the crowd. Then he felt Vivian's hand slip into his and squeeze gently. Not romantic, just human, one person offering comfort to another. When he looked at her, she was crying too, tears sliding down her cheeks as she watched this child she barely knew celebrate a victory. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know this should be Sarah's moment." "It is," Gavin said thickly. "But she'd be glad you're here. She'd want Lily to have people who care about her." They stood there holding hands in a crowded middle school gymnasium, and Gavin realized that something fundamental had shifted. Vivian wasn't just his friend anymore. She was becoming part of his life, part of Lily's life, woven into the fabric of their days in ways he hadn't quite planned. It should have terrified him. Instead, it felt like coming home. The pizza place Lily had chosen was exactly the kind of controlled chaos that made parenting both exhausting and joyful. Arcade games beeped and chimed from every corner, children screamed with laughter, and the air smelled like pepperoni and the particular brand of cleaning solution used to sanitize ball pits. Vivian looked overwhelmed for about 30 seconds before Lily grabbed her hand and dragged her toward the skee-ball machines. "You have to play with me," Lily insisted. "Dad's terrible at skee-ball. He throws like he's trying to hurt the machine." "I do not," Gavin protested, but he was laughing. "I throw with appropriate force. You throw like the ball personally offended you." Lily was already feeding tokens into the machine. "Come on, Vivian, show him how it's done." What followed was perhaps the most surreal hour of Gavin's life. Watching a billionaire CEO play skee-ball with his 12-year-old daughter, both of them trash-talking each other with increasing creativity. Vivian was surprisingly competitive, and when she beat Lily's high score by 10 points, she did a small victory dance that made Lily dissolve into giggles. "You hustled me," Lily accused. "You totally acted like you didn't know how to play and then destroyed my score." "I have 3 brothers," Vivian said, grinning. "You learn to hustle, or you lose at everything forever." "You have brothers?" Lily's eyes went wide. You never mentioned brothers. Something flickered across Vivian's face. Old pain, quickly masked. I haven't talked to them in about 8 years. We had a falling out. About what? Lily, Gavin warned. That's personal. It's okay. Vivian leaned against the skee-ball machine, her expression distant. They thought I was working too much, sacrificing family for business. They were probably right. But I was building Apex and I couldn't do that halfway. So I chose work, and they chose to stop calling. Lily processed this with her characteristic seriousness. That's sad. Yeah, it is. Vivian shook herself, forcing brightness back into her voice. But I'm working on being better about that. About not letting work consume everything. They collected their prize tickets and let Lily deliberate for 15 minutes over what plastic treasure was worth her hard-earned points before settling on a small stuffed dinosaur that she immediately named Gerald. Their pizza arrived at a booth in the corner and they crammed in together, Lily on one side, Gavin and Vivian on the other, close enough that their shoulders touched. So, Lily said through a mouthful of cheese, are you coming to my violin recital next month? Gavin nearly choked on his water. Lily, you can't just… Why not? You said she was coming. You told her about the cats in a blender thing. I said I was required to attend and clap enthusiastically. I didn't necessarily invite… I'd love to come, Vivian interrupted, if that's okay with you. Lily beamed. It's totally okay with me. It's June 15th at 7. Dad has it on the calendar in the kitchen. The one with the cats wearing sunglasses. Noted. June 15th, Cats and Sunglasses calendar. Vivian's eyes sparkled with amusement as she looked at Gavin. You have a Cats and Sunglasses calendar? It was a gift from Lily. I didn't choose it. He secretly loves it, Lily stage whispered to Vivian. I caught him smiling at July once, the cat's wearing a tiny sombrero. The conversation flowed easy and warm, and Gavin watched as Vivian and Lily developed their own rhythm. Inside jokes forming, shared glances, the kind of casual intimacy that usually took months to build. It should have felt too fast, too intense. Instead, it felt inevitable, like watching pieces of a puzzle slot into place. They were finishing dessert, a monstrosity of ice cream and brownie that Lily insisted they all share, when Vivian's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her entire demeanor shifted. The warmth drained from her face, replaced by that corporate mask Gavin had almost forgotten she could wear. I'm sorry, she said, already sliding out of the booth. I need to take this. Work emergency. She disappeared toward the entrance, phone pressed to her ear, and Gavin watched her through the window as she paced the parking lot, her free hand gesturing sharply. Even from a distance, he could see the tension returning to her shoulders, the CEO reasserting herself over the woman who'd been playing skee-ball 10 minutes ago. She does that a lot, doesn't she? Lily said quietly. The work thing. Yeah, she does. It makes her sad. You can see it in her face when the phone rings. Gavin looked at his daughter, struck once again by her perception. You're right, it does. Do you think she'll ever stop, letting work make her sad? I don't know, Pumpkin. That's something she has to figure out herself. Vivian returned 15 minutes later, apologetic and distracted. I'm so sorry. Crisis with a major client. I need to go deal with it. On a Friday night? Lily's disappointment was obvious. Unfortunately, yes, but this was wonderful. Thank you for including me. She pulled out her wallet, and Gavin immediately shook his head. We've got it. Gavin, we've got it, he repeated firmly. You go deal with your crisis. We'll be fine. Something complicated crossed her face. Gratitude, frustration, maybe embarrassment. Thank you. I'll call you tomorrow? Sure. She left in a rush, and Gavin and Lily finished their Sunday in quieter spirits. On the drive home, Lily was uncharacteristically silent, staring out the window at the passing streetlights. What are you thinking about? Gavin asked. I like her, Lily said. Vivian, she's weird and she doesn't know how to relax and she checks her phone too much, but I like her. Me too. But Dad, I don't think she knows how to be happy. Not really happy. She tries, but then work calls and she goes back to being sad. Gavin gripped the steering wheel tighter. Some people don't know how to let themselves be happy, even when they want to be. Is it because she doesn't have anyone? Like, if she had a family, would that help? The question landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading in every direction. I don't know, Lil. Maybe. We could be her family. Lily said it so simply, like she was suggesting they adopt a stray cat instead of inviting a billionaire into their lives permanently. If she wanted, we're pretty good at being a family. Gavin's throat closed up. Yeah, we are. Saturday morning arrived with rain drumming against the windows and Gavin's phone ringing at 7:30. Vivian's name on the screen made his stomach clench. Too early for good news. Hey, he answered. Everything okay? No. Her voice was flat, exhausted. The client deal fell through. 3 months of work, completely collapsed. My VP is talking about layoffs. The board is scheduling an emergency meeting Monday, and I've been up all night trying to figure out how to salvage this, and I just... She broke off, and he heard her take a shaky breath. I'm sorry. I shouldn't dump this on you. Where are you? My office. Have you eaten anything since last night? Silence. Then, I don't remember. I'm coming to get you. Gavin, you don't need to... I'm coming to get you, he repeated. You shouldn't be alone right now. He hung up before she could argue, then poked his head into Lily's room. She was sprawled across her bed reading Gerald the Dinosaur tucked under one arm. Hey, Pumpkin, Vivian's having a rough day. I'm going to go pick her up, bring her back here. That okay? Lily looked up from her book. Is she sad again? Yeah, really sad. Then definitely bring her here. I'll make hot chocolate. Mom always said hot chocolate fixes sad better than anything. An hour later, Gavin arrived at the Apex building to find Vivian waiting in the lobby, looking like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes wrinkled, and the dark circles under her eyes suggested she'd been telling the truth about not sleeping. She climbed into his beat-up Honda Civic without a word, and they drove through rain-slicked streets in silence. When they pulled up in front of his building, she finally spoke. I don't know why I keep doing this. Doing what? Building things that fall apart, caring about things that don't care back, working myself to death for a company that would replace me in a heartbeat if I dropped dead tomorrow. Her voice cracked. I missed your daughter's celebration dinner to deal with a client who ultimately didn't give a damn about our relationship. What's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. You're just tired and scared, and you've been carrying too much alone for too long. I ruined last night. You didn't ruin anything. You had a work emergency. It happens. It always happens, Gavin. That's the problem. Work always happens, and I always choose it, and I always end up alone. He turned off the engine and shifted to face her. Then maybe it's time to start making different choices. I don't know how. Then let us show you. They trudged upstairs to find Lily had transformed the living room into what she called a comfort station. Blankets piled on the couch, hot chocolate waiting in mismatched mugs, and a stack of movies she'd pulled from their collection. When Vivian saw the setup, her face crumpled. You did this for me? Mom always said sad people need soft things and chocolate, Lily explained, so I got you both. Vivian crossed the room and pulled Lily into a hug that looked like it was holding her together. Thank you. This is the kindest thing anyone's done for me in a very long time. They spent the day on the couch, the three of them, working through Lily's movie selection and consuming alarming amounts of hot chocolate. Vivian gradually unwound, her corporate armor falling away piece by piece until she was just a tired woman in borrowed sweatpants, curled under a blanket with a stuffed dinosaur in her lap that Lily had insisted she needed. Somewhere around movie 3, Lily fell asleep sprawled across both adults, her head on Gavin's shoulder and her feet in Vivian's lap. They didn't move, didn't want to disturb her. The rain continued its steady percussion against the windows, creating a cocoon of sound that made the outside world feel very far away. Gavin, Vivian whispered, can I ask you something? Sure. How do you know what matters? I mean, really matters. I thought building Apex mattered. I thought market share and revenue growth and beating competitors mattered. But sitting here with you and Lily, I realize I've been chasing things that don't actually fill the hole. He thought about it carefully. When Sarah was dying, she made me promise something. She said, When you're not sure what to do, ask yourself if it makes you feel more human or less. If it makes you less human, it's not worth it. More human, Vivian repeated softly. Work makes me feel less human, like I'm a machine that processes decisions and emails. But this, being here with you two, this makes me feel human again. Then you have your answer. She was quiet for a long moment, absently stroking Lily's feet. I think I need to make some changes. Big changes. The kind that are going to terrify everyone who depends on me staying exactly as I am. What kind of changes? I don't know yet, but I can't keep living like this, Gavin. I can't keep choosing work over everything that actually matters. I can't keep being so lonely it makes me physically sick. Then don't. Then it's not that simple. I have responsibilities, thousands of employees, shareholders, commitments, and you, Gavin interrupted gently. You have a responsibility to yourself too, to your own happiness, your own well-being. Sarah taught me that the hard way. She spent so much time taking care of everyone else that she ignored symptoms until the cancer was stage 4. She made me promise I wouldn't make the same mistake, wouldn't sacrifice my own life taking care of everyone else's. Vivian's eyes filled with tears. I'm doing exactly that, aren't I? Sacrificing my life for a company? Yeah, you are. She let the tears fall this time, silent and steady. Gavin reached over Lily's sleeping form and took Vivian's hand. They sat like that for a long time, connected by grief and understanding, and the weight of a 12-year-old who somehow fit perfectly between them. When Lily finally stirred awake, they ordered Chinese food and played board games until Vivian was laughing again. Real laughter, not the polished version she probably used in boardrooms. At 9 o'clock, Gavin called her a car, and they all walked downstairs to see her off. Thank you, Vivian said, hugging Lily first, then Gavin. When she pulled back, she looked at him with something intense and vulnerable in her eyes. You're saving my life, you know that, right? You and Lily, you're literally saving my life. You're saving your own life, Gavin corrected. We're just showing you it's worth saving. The car pulled away, and Gavin and Lily stood on the sidewalk watching the taillights disappear into the rainy Chicago night. She's going to be okay, Lily announced with the certainty of the very young. Because she has us now. Gavin hoped she was right. The following Thursday, Gavin was cleaning the executive wing when he saw the light on in Vivian's office. It was past midnight, later than even she usually worked. He debated walking past, minding his own business, maintaining boundaries. Then he thought about the look on her face Saturday when she'd talked about feeling less human, and he knocked. Come in. Vivian sat behind her massive desk, surrounded by papers, and looking like she'd been there for days. But when she saw him, her face brightened. Gavin, what are you doing here? Working. What are you doing here at midnight on a Thursday? Preparing for the board meeting Monday, trying to figure out how to tell them I'm implementing some changes they're really not going to like. He moved into the office, parking his cart by the door. What kind of changes? She leaned back in her chair, exhaustion written in every line of her body. I'm restructuring my role, hiring a COO to handle day-to-day operations, cutting my hours to something approaching reasonable, actually taking weekends off. She laughed, but it was shaky. The board is going to lose their minds. My VPs are going to think I'm having a breakdown. Hell, maybe I am having a breakdown. Or maybe you're having a breakthrough. Same thing, from their perspective. She rubbed her eyes. But I can't keep doing this. I can't keep missing the things that matter because I'm chained to a job that's consuming me. I don't want to look up in 10 years and realize I'm still sitting in this office alone, wondering where my life went. Gavin pulled over the same expensive chair he'd used that first night. That's brave. It's terrifying. Those are usually the same thing. She smiled at that, tired but genuine. Stay for a minute, please. I could use the company. So he stayed, and they talked for an hour. About her plans for restructuring, about the resistance she was facing, about her fear that stepping back meant admitting failure. Gavin listened and asked questions and reminded her that taking care of herself wasn't weakness. You know what Lily said, he told her. She said she thinks you don't know how to be happy. And I think she's right. I think somewhere along the way you forgot that happiness is allowed, that you're allowed to want things that don't come with a revenue projection attached. I'm learning, Vivian said quietly. Slowly, but I'm learning. You and Lily are teaching me. We're not teaching you anything you don't already know. We're just reminding you it exists. When he finally stood to leave, Vivian walked him to the door. They stood in the threshold, the fluorescent hallway lights harsh after the warm glow of her office. Gavin, she said, thank you for checking on me, for caring enough to knock. That's what friends do. Is that what we are? Friends? There was something careful in her voice, like she was testing the edges of a question she wasn't quite brave enough to ask fully. He looked at her, this brilliant, broken, brave woman who'd somehow become essential to his life in the space of 3 months, and felt the truth settle in his chest like a weight and a gift simultaneously. Yeah, he said, even though it felt inadequate. We're friends. Something flickered in her eyes, disappointment maybe, or recognition of the lie they were both telling. But she nodded and smiled and let him go. The explosion came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon 2 weeks later. Lily burst into the apartment holding a manila envelope, her face a complicated mixture of confusion, hurt, and anger that Gavin had never seen before. She threw the envelope on the kitchen table hard enough that it skidded across the surface and hit the wall. Lily, what? When were you going to tell me? Her voice shook. When were you planning to mention that someone's been paying my school tuition for the last 3 years? Gavin's stomach dropped through the floor. What are you talking about? This. She grabbed the envelope and pulled out official-looking documents. The school office gave me the wrong packet for the field trip. It had payment records in it, 3 years of payments, every semester, and you know whose name is on every single one? Her eyes blazed. Vivian Hart. The world tilted sideways. Gavin took the papers with numb fingers, scanning line after line of payment confirmations. Dates going back to when Lily was 9, long before Gavin had ever heard Vivian's name. Amounts that represented thousands upon thousands of dollars. I don't understand, he said, but even as the words left his mouth, pieces were clicking into place. The night he'd found Vivian drunk in her office. The way she'd looked at Lily that first dinner like she was seeing something precious and fragile. The guilt that sometimes flickered across her face when they talked about his struggles with bills. Don't you? Lily's voice cracked. She's been paying my tuition, Dad, for 3 years. All those times you stressed about money, all those times you worked double shifts to make ends meet, and she was just, what? Paying for stuff without telling us? Lily, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. How could you not know? How could you not notice that you weren't paying tuition? The school has a scholarship program. They told me you qualified. I thought... He felt sick. I thought it was based on merit and need. I thought we'd earned it. But we didn't earn it. She just decided to pay for me, like I'm some charity case. Tears spilled down Lily's cheeks, like we're poor people she felt sorry for. That's not... Isn't it? Lily's voice rose. She's a billionaire, Dad. She probably doesn't even notice the money, but we do. You worked yourself to exhaustion thinking you were providing for me, and the whole time it was her. It was always her. The betrayal in his daughter's voice cut deeper than any knife. Gavin grabbed his phone with shaking hands and called Vivian. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. We need to talk, he said, his voice tight. Now. Come to the apartment as soon as you get this. He tried 3 more times over the next hour. No answer. Lily had locked herself in a room, and Gavin could hear her crying through the door, angry, hurt sobs that made him want to put his fist through a wall. Finally, at 6:30, there was a knock at the door. Vivian stood in the hallway, her face pale, already knowing. Gavin, I can explain. Inside. He stepped back and she entered like she was walking to her own execution. They stood in the living room, the same space where they'd watched movies and played board games and built something that felt like family. Now it felt contaminated, poisoned by this revelation. How long have you known? Vivian's voice was barely above a whisper. About an hour. Lily found payment records. 3 years, Vivian. 3 goddamn years you've been paying her tuition without saying a word. I was going to tell you. When? When were you planning to mention that our entire friendship is built on a lie? It's not a lie. I care about you, about Lily. The payments have nothing to do with... Don't! Gavin's voice was sharp enough to make her flinch. Don't you dare tell me this has nothing to do with our relationship. You've been secretly funding my daughter's education while I busted my ass working double shifts, thinking I was providing for her. Do you have any idea what that feels like? Do you have any concept of how humiliating this is?" Vivian's eyes filled with tears. "I was trying to help. You were struggling, and I had the means. And it seemed like such a simple thing. It's not simple. It's patronizing. It's insulting. It makes every conversation we've had about money, about work, about my life, into a farce where you're the generous patron and I'm the charity case who doesn't even know he's being helped. That's not how I see you, isn't it?" The words exploded out of him, months of unacknowledged tension finding release. "You're the billionaire CEO who swoops in and saves the poor janitor and his daughter. You throw money at our problems while pretending to be our friend. What was this, Vivian? Guilt? Pity? Some kind of social experiment to see how the other half lives? Stop it," her voice broke. "Stop saying that. You know that's not true." "Do I? Because from where I'm standing, this whole thing looks like you trying to buy yourself a family." The words hit her like a physical blow. She actually staggered back, her hand going to her chest. "Dad?" Lily's voice came from the hallway. She'd emerged from her room, her face blotchy from crying. "Is she really here?" Vivian turned toward her, desperate. "Lily, please let me explain. You lied to us." Lily's voice was small and broken. "You pretended to be our friend, but you were buying us. Like we're something you can own." "No, no, sweetheart, that's not. Don't call me sweetheart. You don't get to do that." Tears streamed down Lily's face. "I thought you liked me. I thought we were friends for real, but you just felt sorry for me because my mom died and my dad's a janitor and we're poor. I do like you. I like you so much. You and your dad are the most important. Then why didn't you tell us?" Lily's voice rose to a shout. "Why didn't you just tell us the truth?" Vivian's face crumpled. "Because I was afraid of this. I was afraid you'd look at me exactly the way you're looking at me right now. So you lied instead." "I didn't mean to lie. At first it was just, I saw you in the office that first night, Gavin. You were so proud, so determined to take care of Lily on your own. And I checked, and I saw the school tuition bills that were crushing you. And I thought if I could just help quietly, without you knowing, you could breathe easier. I didn't want gratitude or recognition. I just wanted to help. And then," Gavin's voice was ice, "then you met me. Then you became part of our lives, and you still didn't say anything. I was going to. 100 times I almost told you, but every time I got close, I thought about losing this, losing you both. And I couldn't." She was crying openly now. "I couldn't bear the thought of you looking at me like you are right now, like I'm some monster who manipulated you." "You did manipulate us," Lily said quietly. "Maybe you didn't mean to, but you did." The truth of it hung in the air, undeniable. Vivian looked between them, her carefully constructed world falling apart. Please don't hate me. I know I should have told you. I know I made this so much worse by keeping it secret. But everything else was real. My friendship with you, my feelings for..." She stopped herself. "Everything else was real. You have to believe that." "I don't know what to believe anymore," Gavin said, and the exhaustion in his voice was devastating. "I don't know what was real and what was you playing savior to make yourself feel better about your empty life." The cruelty of it made Vivian physically recoil. "Is that what you think? That I was using you to feel better about myself?" "What else am I supposed to think? You lied to us for 3 years, Vivian. You built our entire relationship on a foundation of deception. How am I supposed to trust anything you say now?" She opened her mouth, closed it, and Gavin watched as she realized there was no answer that would fix this, no explanation that would undo the damage. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you, either of you. I was trying to help. I was trying to be a good person." "Good people don't lie to their friends," Lily said, her voice cold in a way that was terrible coming from a 12-year-old. "Good people tell the truth even when it's hard." Vivian looked at this child she'd come to love, saw the betrayal in her eyes, and broke completely. She sobbed, harsh and ugly, the sound of someone's heart shattering. "I should go," she managed through the tears. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She turned toward the door, and every instinct in Gavin screamed at him to stop her, to forgive her, to recognize that her intentions had been good, even if her execution was catastrophic. But Lily was watching him, wounded and waiting to see if he'd choose Vivian over her. And he couldn't do that. He couldn't. So he let her go. The door closed, and the apartment fell silent except for Lily's quiet crying and Gavin's ragged breathing. "Dad?" Lily's voice was very small. "Did we just lose her?" Gavin pulled his daughter into his arms, and they stood there in the wreckage of something beautiful, both of them crying for what they'd found and lost. "I don't know, Pumpkin. I don't know." The apartment felt haunted after Vivian left. Every corner held memories that now carried the weight of betrayal. The couch where they'd watched movies, the kitchen table where they'd shared meals, the hallway where Vivian had hugged Lily goodnight. Gavin moved through the space like a ghost himself, going through the motions of normal life, while everything inside him screamed that nothing was normal anymore. Lily barely spoke for 3 days. She went to school, came home, did her homework in mechanical silence. The vibrant, curious girl who asked a million questions and built elaborate contraptions had retreated into herself, and watching it happen felt like losing her all over again. On Thursday night, Gavin found her sitting on her bed surrounded by photos, printed pictures she'd collected over the past months. Vivian at the science fair, Vivian playing skee-ball, Vivian on the couch with Gerald the dinosaur. Lily had her phone out, presumably to delete the digital versions, but her finger hovered over the screen without moving. "Can't do it?" Gavin asked gently from the doorway. Lily looked up, her eyes red. "I'm so mad at her, Dad. I'm so mad. But I also—" Her voice cracked. "I miss her. How can I miss someone who lied to us?" Gavin sat down beside her, careful not to disturb the photos. Because feelings don't have an off switch. You can be hurt and angry and still care about someone. That's what makes this so hard. Did she ever really care about us? Or were we just some project, like fix the poor people and feel good about yourself? It was the question that had been eating at Gavin too. He picked up one of the photos. Vivian and Lily grinning at the camera, genuine joy on both their faces. "I think she cared," he said slowly. "I think she cared so much it terrified her, and that's why she didn't tell us. She was afraid of exactly this, losing us. But she lost us anyway because she lied." "Yeah, she did." Lily was quiet for a long moment, running her finger over the edge of a photo. "Mrs. Chen came over today while you were at work. She brought soup and asked where Vivian was. I told her we had a fight, and you know what she said?" "What?" "She said that family fights are the worst kind because you actually care about the outcome. She said if we didn't care about Vivian, we wouldn't be this hurt." Lily looked at him with eyes too old for 12. "Are we family, Dad? Me and you and Vivian?" The question squeezed Gavin's heart like a fist. "I don't know what we are anymore, Lil." "I think we were," she whispered. "I think we were becoming family, and that's why this hurts so much." She started crying then, and Gavin held her while she sobbed out all the complicated grief of losing someone who was still alive. Eventually she fell asleep against his shoulder, exhausted by emotion. He tucked her into bed and gathered up the photos, unable to throw them away. Instead, he put them in a box and slid it under his own bed, out of sight, but not destroyed. That night, lying in the dark, Gavin let himself think about Vivian for the first time since she'd walked out. He imagined her in that massive penthouse she hated, alone with the weight of what she'd done. Part of him wanted to call her, to hear her voice, to understand why she'd thought keeping this secret was better than being honest. The larger part, the part that had to protect Lily, that had to maintain some dignity, knew that calling her would only make everything worse. His phone sat on the nightstand, dark and silent. Vivian hadn't called either. Maybe she was waiting for him to make the first move. Maybe she was respecting the distance he'd demanded. Maybe she'd already moved on, back to her billionaire life where janitors and their daughters were just a brief distraction. He hated that he didn't know which option hurt more. Friday morning brought the kind of crisp June sunshine that felt like mockery. Gavin dropped Lily at school and headed to work, grateful for the mindless routine of cleaning. He'd requested a floor assignment change and was now working the lower levels, far from the executive wing. He couldn't face that office, that desk, those windows where everything had started. Lou caught him at the diner that afternoon. Gavin had stopped going to their usual booth, unable to sit there without seeing Vivian across from him, but Lou cornered him at the counter anyway. "You look like hell," the old man said bluntly. "Thanks, Lou. Really needed that today." "Where's your friend? The fancy lady?" "She's not coming around anymore." Lou studied him with the shrewd eyes of someone who'd been watching human nature for 7 decades. "You have a fight?" "Something like that." "You want to talk about it?" "Not particularly." "Good, because I don't want to hear it. But I will tell you this. Whatever happened, you look miserable, and I'm guessing she's miserable too. So the question is whether whatever she did is worth being this unhappy." "She lied to me, Lou. Big lie. The kind that makes you question everything." "Everyone lies, kid. The question is why they did it and what they do after they get caught." Lou poured him more coffee. "That woman looked at you and your girl like you hung the moon. I've seen a lot of people in love, and that's what I saw. People in love do stupid things sometimes. Doesn't mean they don't love you." The word love hit Gavin like a physical blow. He hadn't let himself think it, hadn't let himself consider that what he felt for Vivian might be deeper than friendship. But hearing it said out loud cracked something open in his chest. "It doesn't matter," he said roughly. "She broke trust. How do we come back from that? That's between you and her. But sitting here being miserable ain't helping anyone." Lou walked away to serve another customer, leaving Gavin alone with coffee that had gone cold and thoughts he didn't want to examine. The breaking point came on Saturday afternoon. Lily had been in her room all morning, and when Gavin knocked to ask about lunch, she told him to come in. She was sitting on her bed again, but this time she wasn't crying. She looked resolved, like she'd made a decision. "Dad, we need to talk." "Okay." He sat in her desk chair, giving her space. "What's on your mind?" "I've been thinking about what Mrs. Chen said, about family fights being the worst because you care, and I've been thinking about Vivian and why she paid my tuition." Lily took a deep breath. "I looked it up, the dates of the payments. The first one was 3 years ago, right after Mom died." Gavin felt his stomach clench. "Lily, let me finish. The first payment was dated 2 weeks after Mom's funeral. You were working 3 jobs trying to keep up with everything. I was falling apart at school, and somehow, someone who didn't know us at all decided to help." She looked at him with those 2 wise eyes. "Dad, she didn't know us then. She wasn't buying our friendship because we didn't have a friendship. She just saw a family that was drowning and threw us a rope." The logic was so clear, so painfully obvious now that Lily had laid it out. Gavin had been so focused on the betrayal, on the lie, that he hadn't stopped to consider the timeline or the motivation. "She helped us when we were strangers," Lily continued. "And then later, when we became friends, she was probably terrified to tell us because she didn't want us to think it was about money. She didn't want us to feel like we owed her." Lily's voice wavered. "I'm still mad that she lied. I'm still hurt. But Dad, I think maybe she lied because she loved us, not because she was using us." "But when did you get so smart?" "I've always been smart. You just don't always listen when I'm right." She gave him a watery smile. "I looked at all the photos again, every single one. And you know what I saw? I saw someone who was happy, really, genuinely happy. Vivian's never happy in pictures from before. I Googled her. She always looks like she's performing, but in our pictures, she looks real." Gavin's throat was tight. "What are you saying, Lil?" "I'm saying I miss her. I'm saying I think she made a mistake, but it came from a good place. And I'm saying that if we don't at least try to fix this, we're going to regret it." Lily wiped her eyes. "I don't want to lose her, Dad. I know I said I hated her, and I know she messed up, but I don't want to lose her. Do you?" The question hung in the air, demanding honesty. Gavin thought about Vivian's laugh, her terrible skee-ball trash talk, the way she'd cried watching Lily win first place. He thought about her face in that office the first night, so desperately lonely. He thought about how she'd looked at him and Lily like they were miracles she couldn't quite believe were real. "No," he admitted. "I don't want to lose her either." "Then we need to talk to her. Really talk. Not yell, not accuse. Actually listen to what she has to say." Lily stood up with the determination of someone who'd made up her mind. "I'm not saying we just forgive her and pretend nothing happened, but I think we owe it to ourselves, and to her, to at least hear her out." Gavin looked at his 12-year-old daughter and wondered when exactly she'd become wiser than him. You're right. You're absolutely right. I know. So can we go see her? Now? Before we lose our nerve? The thought of showing up at Vivian's penthouse unannounced filled Gavin with equal parts terror and hope. But Lily was right. If they didn't do this now, the hurt would calcify into something permanent. Yeah, he said. Let's go. The building where Vivian lived was exactly what Gavin expected. All glass and steel and doormen in uniforms. The kind of place where his Honda Civic looked like a mistake in the parking garage. The lobby had marble floors that echoed and artwork that probably cost more than his annual salary. The doorman looked at them with thinly veiled suspicion until Gavin explained they were there to see Ms. Hart. Is she expecting you? No, but please tell her Gavin and Lily Brooks are here. She'll want to see us. The doorman made a call, speaking too quietly for them to hear. When he hung up, he looked surprised. 42nd floor, elevators to your left. The ride up was silent, Gavin's heart hammering against his ribs. Lily gripped his hand, her palms sweaty. When the elevator doors opened directly into Vivian's penthouse, they stepped into a space that was beautiful and sterile and profoundly sad. Exactly the kind of place someone lived when they'd given up on being happy. Vivian stood in the middle of her living room, and the sight of her made Gavin's chest constrict. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt that might have been the Cubs shirt he'd given her, eyes swollen from crying. She'd clearly been living in her own private hell for the past week. You came, she whispered, like she couldn't quite believe it. We came, Lily said. Her voice was steady, but she hadn't let go of Gavin's hand. We want to talk, really talk, if that's okay. Of course. Yes, please. Vivian gestured toward the couch, and they all sat down in an awkward triangle, the coffee table between them, like a demilitarized zone. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Lily took a deep breath. I need to understand something, she said. Why did you start paying my tuition, the first time, I mean, before you knew us? Vivian looked startled by the question. You want to know about the first payment? Yes. Please tell me the truth, the whole truth. Vivian's hands twisted in her lap. It was 2 weeks after your mother died. I was working late, and I heard someone in the cleaning crew mention that Gavin Brooks had just lost his wife and was working triple shifts trying to keep up with his daughter's school tuition. I didn't know you then. I'd probably passed your dad in the hallway without really seeing him, but the idea of a little girl losing her mother and potentially losing her school because of medical bills, her voice cracked. It destroyed me. Why? Lily pressed. You didn't know me. Why did you care? Because I was 9 when my father died, and I know what that kind of loss does to a child. Because I had the money and you needed help, and it seemed like the least I could do. Vivian wiped her eyes. I found out what school you attended, called the administration office, and set up an anonymous scholarship in your name. I didn't want recognition. I didn't want gratitude. I just wanted to know that one little girl wouldn't lose any more than she'd already lost. Gavin felt something crack in his chest. You did it anonymously. Of course I did it anonymously. Gavin, I'd never even spoken to you. How would that conversation go? Hi, I'm your boss's boss's boss, and I'm paying your daughter's tuition because I heard you're struggling. That's not help. That's humiliation. So when did it stop being anonymous? Lily asked. Vivian's face crumpled. When I met you, both of you, when we became friends, and you became the most important people in my life, and I realized I'd painted myself into a corner I didn't know how to escape from. You could have told us, Gavin said, but his voice was gentler than it had been a week ago. I know I should have. Every Friday at Lou's, I'd planned to tell you. I'd rehearse the words in my head. But every time I got close, I'd imagine the look on your face, the betrayal, the hurt, the feeling that our friendship was built on deception, and I'd chicken out. She looked at them both, her eyes swimming with tears. I was a coward. I chose my own comfort over your right to know the truth, and I have no excuse for that except fear. Fear of what? Gavin asked. Fear of this. Fear of losing you. Fear that you'd look at me the way you looked at me last Tuesday, like I was a monster who manipulated you for my own amusement. Her voice broke. I love you, both of you. You're my family, the only real family I've had in years. And I was so terrified of losing that, I sabotaged it instead. Lily had started crying silently. You really think of us as family? Yes, absolutely yes. Vivian slid off the couch onto her knees, moving closer to Lily. Sweetheart, you are the daughter I never had. Watching you win first place at that science fair was one of the proudest moments of my life. Playing skee ball with you, helping with your homework, listening to you explain your pulley systems, those weren't obligations, they were gifts. You gave me a purpose that had nothing to do with money or business. You made me feel human again. Then why didn't you just tell us? Lily's voice was small and broken. Why didn't you trust us enough to tell the truth? Because I'm an idiot who spent 20 years learning how to run a company and 0 years learning how to have a family. Because I thought money was how you showed love, and I didn't understand that real love is about honesty and trust and showing up even when it's hard. Vivian was fully crying now, her words coming in gasps. I'm so sorry. I'm so desperately sorry. I would give anything, everything, to go back and do this differently. To tell you the truth from the beginning. To trust you the way you deserve to be trusted. Gavin felt his own eyes burning. Vivian, look at me. She raised her head, and the devastation in her face nearly undid him. What you did was wrong, he said carefully. Lying to us, keeping that secret. It was wrong, and it hurt us badly. But I'm starting to understand why you did it, and I'm starting to think that maybe intentions matter almost as much as actions. I never meant to hurt you, either of you. I know. I can see that now. He took a shaky breath. But Vivian, if we're going to fix this, if there's even a possibility of fixing this, things have to change. No more secrets. No more trying to solve our problems with your checkbook. No more decisions about our lives made without our input. I understand, completely. I'll stop the tuition payments immediately. Don't, Lily interrupted. Both adults looked at her in surprise. Don't stop the payments. I've been thinking about this, and here's what I realized. You helped us when we needed it most, and refusing that help now because of pride is stupid. But Dad's right that we need to know about it, so here's what I think should happen. She took a deep breath, and Gavin watched as his daughter negotiated like someone 3 times her age. You can keep helping with tuition, but we all sit down together and talk about it like a family. We decide together what's fair and what's not. And Dad gets to contribute too, whatever he can afford, because he needs to feel like he's taking care of me. That's important to him. She looked at her father. Right, Dad? Right, Gavin managed. And no more secret payments for anything else. If you want to help us, you ask first. You don't just do it and hope we don't notice. Lily turned back to Vivian. Does that seem fair? Vivian was staring at Lily like she was witnessing a miracle. That seems more than fair. That seems generous beyond anything I deserve. It's not about what you deserve, Lily said with devastating honesty. It's about what we need, and we need you. We need you to be in our lives, but we need you to be honest. Can you do that? Yes, I promise. No more secrets. Vivian wiped her eyes. Is it okay if I hug you? Lily looked at her father, a question in her eyes. Gavin nodded, and Lily launched herself off the couch into Vivian's arms. They collapsed together onto the floor, both of them crying, and Gavin watched as 2 people he loved held each other and began the hard work of rebuilding trust. After a moment, Vivian reached out one hand toward Gavin. Please? He moved to join them, sinking down onto the ridiculously expensive rug, and pulled both of them into his arms. They stayed like that for a long time. 3 people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way, holding on while they figured out how to be a family. I'm still mad at you, Lily said eventually, her voice muffled against Vivian's shoulder. Just so you know, you really hurt us. I know, I'm mad at me too. But I love you, and I miss you, and I don't want to lose you. You're not going to lose me, ever, I promise. Vivian pulled back enough to look at Lily's face. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to mess up because I'm still learning how to be part of a family. But I will never, ever lie to you again. That's a promise I can make and keep. Good. Lily sniffled, then looked around the penthouse with critical eyes. This place is awful, by the way. It's like living in a museum where everything's too expensive to touch. Vivian laughed, startled and genuine. It really is, isn't it? You should come stay at our place more often. It's not fancy, but at least it feels like a home. I'd like that very much. Vivian looked at Gavin, uncertainty creeping back into her expression. If that's okay with your dad. Gavin met her eyes and saw everything he needed to see. Genuine remorse, desperate hope, love that was messy and real and nothing like the polished version of herself she showed the world. He thought about Lou's question, about whether what she'd done was worth being this unhappy. He thought about Lily's wisdom, about family fights being the worst because you cared. He thought about Sarah's advice to ask if something made him feel more human or less. Forgiving Vivian, trusting her again, letting her back into their lives. It was risky and complicated and would require work from all of them, but it made him feel more human, not less. It's more than okay, he said. But Vivian, I need you to understand something. This can't be about you trying to buy your way into our lives or trying to save us. This has to be about real partnership, real family. That means you let us help you too. It means you stop trying to be perfect and let yourself be messy and human and flawed. I can do that. I want to do that. She looked between them. I've been doing a lot of thinking this week about what matters, about what I want my life to look like. I met with my board. I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations, hiring a COO, cutting my hours in half. Vivian, you don't have to. I do. I absolutely do. Her voice was fierce. I've spent 20 years building a company, and in the process, I lost myself. I lost connection, joy, purpose beyond profit margins. You two showed me what I was missing. I'm not giving that up again. Not for anything. Lily perked up. Does that mean you'll have time for my violin recital? I'll be front row, enthusiastically clapping even during the cats in a blender parts. What about Little League games, dad coaches, and the season just started? I'll be there with a foam finger and everything. And movie nights, with the gross amount of popcorn dad makes? Especially movie nights with gross amounts of popcorn. Lily grinned, then turned serious again. And therapy? Because I think we all probably need therapy to work through this properly. Both adults stared at her. Gavin recovered first. When did you become a family therapist? I Googled how to rebuild trust after someone lies, and all the articles said therapy helps, so I think we should do it. Together, maybe. Family therapy. She looked between them. Is that weird? Is that pushing too hard? That's not weird at all, Vivian said softly. That's incredibly mature and wise. And yes, I think family therapy is an excellent idea. They spent the rest of the afternoon talking, really talking, laying out boundaries and expectations and fears. Vivian ordered pizza from a place that probably cost 10 times what Lily's arcade pizza did, and they ate sitting on the floor because the dining table felt too formal. Gradually, the awkwardness faded, replaced by something that felt like the beginning of healing. As evening approached, Lily started yawning. The emotional exhaustion of the day was catching up with her. We should go, Gavin said. Let you get some rest, too. Wait. Vivian disappeared into her bedroom and returned with a large envelope. She handed it to Gavin, her hands trembling slightly. I want you to have this. It's every payment record, every transaction, everything related to Lily's tuition. Complete transparency. Look at it whenever you want, or throw it away. But I want you to know you can trust me to be honest now. Gavin took the envelope, feeling the weight of it. Thank you. At the door, Vivian hugged Lily again, long and tight. I love you, sweetheart. Thank you for giving me another chance. I love you too, but mess up again and I'm going to be way less forgiving. Noted. Then Vivian turned to Gavin, and the air between them crackled with everything they hadn't said, hadn't addressed. The feelings that went beyond friendship, the connection that Lily had noticed and Lou had named, and neither of them had been brave enough to acknowledge. Gavin, she said quietly, thank you for coming here, for listening, for not giving up on me. Thank you for being honest, finally. She smiled, sad and hopeful simultaneously. Friday? Lou's? Or is that too soon? Friday's good, but Vivian, I think we need to have a conversation, just the two of us, about what this is, about what we are to each other. Something flickered in her eyes, fear and hope warring for dominance. I'd like that. In the car on the way home, Lily was quiet for a long time before saying, "You like her, don't you, Dad? Like more than friends?" There was no point in lying to her. "Yeah, I think I do. And she likes you the same way. I could tell." "Maybe. Probably. I don't know." He gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Is that okay with you? If something developed between us?" Lily was quiet, thinking it through with her characteristic seriousness. "I think Mom would want you to be happy, and I think Vivian makes you happy in a way I haven't seen since before Mom died. So yeah, it's okay with me, as long as you promise to be honest with each other, and with me." "I promise." "Good." She leaned her head against the window. "We're going to be okay, aren't we? All three of us?" "Yeah, Pumpkin. I think we are." Friday arrived with the kind of anticipation that made Gavin's stomach flip. He dropped Lily at her grandmother's. She'd insisted on giving them space for their conversation, and headed to Lou's early. Vivian was already there, sitting in their usual booth, wearing jeans and that Cubs shirt and looking nervous in a way that made her seem younger. "Hey," she said when he slid in across from her. "Hey." Lou appeared with coffee and a knowing look. "You two work out your fight?" "Getting there," Gavin said. "Good. About time. I was tired of you both moping around like tragedy cases." He poured coffee and disappeared, leaving them in privacy. Vivian wrapped her hands around her mug, a gesture Gavin had come to recognize as her gathering courage. "I've been practicing what to say all week. Wrote it down, memorized it. But now that you're here, all those perfect words are gone." "So just say the imperfect ones." She smiled. "The imperfect ones. Okay." She took a breath. "Gavin, somewhere between that first night in my office and Lily's science fair and Sunday movie marathons, I fell in love with you. With both of you, but also specifically with you. And I've been terrified to say it because I thought maybe you just saw me as a friend, or maybe you could never see me as anything else because of the money difference, or because I'm broken, or because I messed everything up so badly." Gavin's heart was hammering. "You're not broken." "I'm a little broken, but I'm working on it. With therapy, like Lily suggested, and with the changes I'm making at work, and with trying to learn how to be a person instead of a CEO." She met his eyes. "But mostly with you. You make me want to be better. You make me believe I can be better. Vivian, let me finish, please." Her voice shook. "I know I lied. I know I broke your trust. I know I have to earn that back, and it's going to take time. But I need you to know that every moment we spent together was real. Every laugh, every conversation, every time I looked at you and felt my heart do something complicated, all of it was real. The most real thing in my life." She was crying now, tears spilling down her cheeks, and Gavin reached across the table to take her hands. "I fell in love with you too," he said, and watched her eyes go wide. "Somewhere between you showing up for Lily's science fair and watching you play skee-ball and seeing you cry over her winning first place. I fell in love with this brilliant, complicated woman who was learning how to be human again, who was brave enough to admit she was lonely and ask for help. Gavin, but you're right that we need time. We need to rebuild trust, establish new patterns, figure out how to do this in a way that's healthy for all three of us. I'm not ready to jump into something romantic when we're still healing from everything that happened." Vivian nodded, swiping at her tears. "That's fair. That's more than fair. So what do? We take it slow. We keep being honest. We go to therapy like Lily suggested. We show up for each other, and we see where it leads." He squeezed her hands. "I'm not going anywhere, Vivian. Neither is Lily. We're in this together, but we're doing it right this time." "Right this time?" she echoed. "I can do that. Slow and honest and together." They sat there holding hands across the table, and Gavin felt something settle in his chest. Not resolution exactly, but the beginning of it. The start of something new built on a foundation of honesty instead of secrets. "Can I ask you something?" Vivian said. "What happens now? I mean, practically. Do I keep coming to Friday dinners? Do I back off and give you space? What do you need from me?" "I need you to show up, consistently. Be part of our lives in real daily ways. Not just the fun parts, birthday parties and science fairs, But the boring parts too. Homework help and grocery shopping and the mundane stuff that makes up actual life. I can do that. I want to do that. And I need you to let us be part of your life too, really part of it. Let us see you struggle. Let us help when you're overwhelmed. Stop trying to be perfect. That's going to be harder. I've spent a long time pretending I have everything under control. I know, but that's where the therapy comes in. He smiled. We're all going to be a mess together. At least we'll be an honest mess. She laughed, and the sound was lighter than anything he'd heard from her in weeks. An honest mess. I like that. They talked for 2 more hours, mapping out what the next few months might look like. Vivian would come to dinner twice a week. They'd start family therapy the following Tuesday. She'd attend Lily's violin recital and Gavin's little league games. They'd take things day by day, rebuilding trust through small, consistent actions instead of grand gestures. When they finally left Lou's, the sun was setting, painting the Chicago sky in shades of orange and pink. They stood on the sidewalk, and Vivian looked at him with a question in her eyes. Can I hug you? Yeah, you can hug me. She stepped into his arms, and Gavin held her close, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. It wasn't romantic exactly. Too much healing still needed to happen for that. But it was intimate and real and full of promise. Thank you, she whispered against his shoulder, for not giving up on me. Thank you for being worth fighting for. Over the next few months, they learned how to be a family. Not a traditional family, not one that fit any conventional definition, but a family nonetheless. Vivian showed up for dinner every Tuesday and Thursday, and gradually those dinners became louder, messier, more comfortable. She learned to cook under Gavin's patient instruction, and her first successful carbonara was celebrated like a national holiday. She attended every single one of Lily's violin recitals, and true to her word, she clapped enthusiastically even during the parts that made dogs howl. She came to Little League games and screamed encouragement from the bleachers, losing her voice more than once. She helped Lily with her increasingly complex engineering projects and attended parent-teacher conferences and showed up to everything she was invited to and several things she wasn't. The therapy helped, all 3 of them sitting in that office every Tuesday afternoon, working through trust issues and communication patterns and the complex dynamics of their unconventional family. Lily talked about her fear of losing another parent, about feeling caught between loyalty to her mother's memory and love for Vivian. Vivian talked about her terror of vulnerability, about years of equating love with transaction. Gavin talked about his struggle to accept help, about the pride that had nearly cost him everything. Slowly, painfully, they healed. Vivian's transformation at work became the stuff of legend. She hired an exceptional COO and actually delegated, cutting her hours from 80 a week to a sane 40. She started taking weekends off, really off, with her phone silenced and her email unread. The board was skeptical at first, convinced the company would collapse without her constant oversight. Instead, Apex thrived. Turned out that a CEO who was rested, happy, and actually present in meetings made better decisions than one who was exhausted and miserable. She reconnected with her brothers too, a tentative process that started with emails and progressed to phone calls and eventually to a weekend visit where Gavin and Lily met her family. Her brothers were wary at first, protective of their sister who'd pushed them away for so long. But Lily won them over within an hour, and by the end of the weekend her youngest brother was teaching Lily card tricks, while her middle brother grilled Gavin about his intentions. You make her laugh, her oldest brother told Gavin quietly. I haven't heard her laugh like that since before our dad died. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. The first time Vivian stayed over on a non-crisis night, it was because they'd been up late watching movies and Lily had fallen asleep between them on the couch. Gavin carried his daughter to bed, and when he came back, Vivian was cleaning up popcorn bowls with the comfortable ease of someone who'd done it 100 times. I should probably go, she said, but there was no conviction in it. Or you could stay, sleep in the guest room. He paused. Which I guess is still technically Lily's room, but we could make up the couch. The couch is fine, she smiled. Better than fine, actually. It's perfect. That became the new pattern. Some nights she went home to her penthouse, which she'd gradually made more comfortable, filling it with photos and warmth. But more often, she stayed, sleeping on the couch or in the guest room they eventually set up properly, becoming part of the fabric of their daily lives. The first kiss happened on a Saturday in late October. They'd taken Lily to a pumpkin patch, and Lily had run ahead with some school friends, leaving Gavin and Vivian walking through rows of orange globes under a brilliant autumn sky. "I'm happy," Vivian said suddenly. "Right now, in this moment, I'm genuinely happy. Is that okay to say?" "It's more than okay. It's everything." Gavin stopped walking, and she turned to face him. "Vivian, I think I've been in love with you since you beat Lily at skee ball and did that ridiculous victory dance, and I'm tired of pretending I don't want more than friendship." "How much more?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "All of it. Everything. The whole messy, complicated, beautiful thing." He cupped her face in his hands. "But only if you're ready. Only if this is what you want. I've wanted this since that first Friday at Lou's. I just didn't think I deserved it. You deserve everything good, Vivian. You deserve to be loved and happy and part of a family that chooses you every single day." She kissed him then, soft and tentative and sweet, and Gavin felt something slot into place that he hadn't realized was missing. When they pulled apart, Lily was standing 10 feet away with an enormous grin on her face. "Finally! I thought you two were going to dance around this forever." She bounced over to them. "So are you officially together now? Because I need to know if I should update my emergency contact forms at school." Gavin laughed. "We're officially together. If that's okay with you?" "It's extremely okay with me, but fair warning, if you two start being gross and mushy, I'm going to make fun of you mercilessly." "Noted," Vivian said, grinning. She held out her hand to Lily. "Want to help us pick the perfect pumpkin for carving?" "Obviously, but I'm in charge of the design. Last year, Dad tried to do a scary face and it looked like a demented potato." They walked through the pumpkin patch together, three people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way. And Gavin felt a peace he hadn't experienced since Sarah died. It was different, this love, this family, but it was real and hard-won and precious beyond measure. A year later, on a crisp December evening, Gavin walked into the apartment after his shift to find it transformed. Candles everywhere, music playing softly, and Vivian standing in the middle of it all wearing a dress that made his mouth go dry. "What's all this?" "Lily's at your mother-in-law's for the night. I bribed her with promises of a new engineering kit." Vivian moved toward him, her eyes bright. "We need to talk." His heart jumped. "That sounds ominous." "It's not, or at least I hope it's not." She took his hands, and he could feel her trembling. "Gavin, this year with you and Lily has been the best year of my life. You've taught me how to be human again, how to love and be loved, how to be part of something bigger than myself." "Vivian, let me finish, please. I've been thinking about the future, about what I want my life to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And in every version I imagine, you're there, you and Lily, coming home to you, building a life with you. Maybe even—" She stopped, emotion choking her voice. "Maybe even marriage and making this family official in every way." Gavin's breath caught. "Are you asking what I think you're asking?" "I don't have a ring. I probably should have gotten a ring, but I couldn't wait, and I wanted to do this here, in this apartment where you first showed me what home feels like." She was crying now, happy tears streaming down her face. "Gavin Brooks, will you marry me? Will you let me be Lily's stepmom and your wife, and part of this beautiful, messy, perfect family forever?" He pulled her into his arms, laughing and crying simultaneously. "Yes, absolutely yes. 1,000 times yes." They kissed, deep and full of promise, and Gavin thought about that night in Vivian's office when he'd found her broken and alone. He thought about the journey they'd traveled, the mistakes, the forgiveness, the hard work of building trust. He thought about Sarah, who'd made him promise to find happiness again, and sent a silent thank you to wherever she was. "I love you," he told Vivian. "I love you so much it scares me sometimes." "I love you too. You and Lily. My family." They spent the evening planning, dreaming out loud about the future. A small wedding, just family and close friends. Maybe moving to a bigger place where they could all have their own space. Definitely keeping Friday pancakes at Lou's as a permanent tradition. When Lily came home the next morning, they sat her down together. "We have some news," Gavin started. "You're getting married," Lily shrieked before he could finish. "I knew it. Mrs. Chen owes me $5. I bet her you'd be engaged by New Year's. You bet on us? Vivian asked, amused. Obviously, you two are disgustingly in love. Everyone can see it. She looked between them, her expression turning serious. But I want to know, if you get married, does that mean Vivian is officially my mom? Like, can I call you mom if I want to? Vivian's face crumpled, and she pulled Lily into a fierce hug. You can call me anything you want, sweetheart. Mom, Vivian, anything. I would be honored beyond words to be your mom. Even though I'm not a little kid anymore? Even though I'm going to be a teenager soon and probably drive you crazy? Especially then. That's when you'll need me most. Lily hugged her tighter. I love you, Mom. The word hung in the air, precious and perfect. Gavin watched his daughter and his future wife hold each other and felt his heart expand to accommodate this impossible, beautiful reality. 6 months later, on a perfect June afternoon, they gathered in Lou's diner for the wedding reception. The ceremony had been small, just family and a handful of close friends. But the reception was exactly what they wanted. Lou had closed the diner for the day and decorated with string lights and flowers. And the same booths where they'd shared so many Friday pancakes were now filled with people celebrating their union. Vivian's brothers gave speeches that made everyone cry and laugh. Lily served as maid of honor and delivered a toast that had the whole room in tears, talking about how Vivian had taught her that family wasn't just about blood, but about choosing to show up for each other every single day. Sarah's parents were there too, beaming from their table, having welcomed Vivian into the family with open arms. Her mother-in-law had pulled Gavin aside before the ceremony. Sarah would be so happy, she'd said. She'd be so proud of you for opening your heart again, for giving Lily another mother to love her. As the evening wound down and guests started leaving, Gavin found himself alone with Vivian for a moment. She'd kicked off her heels and was barefoot in her wedding dress, eating a piece of Lou's famous chocolate cake. Happy? He asked. Deliriously, impossibly, more than I ever thought possible. She leaned against him. Thank you for finding me that night. Thank you for not walking past my office. Thank you for knocking. Thank you for letting me in. They watched Lily dance with Vivian's youngest brother, her laughter bright and free, and Gavin marveled at how far they'd all come. From that first terrible night to this perfect moment, it had been hard and messy and complicated, but it had been worth every struggle. You know what I realized? Vivian said softly. I spent 20 years trying to buy happiness, building an empire, accumulating wealth, thinking if I just made enough money, achieved enough success, I'd finally feel complete. And all along, what I needed was this: human connection, love, family. Things you can't buy, only build. You built it, Gavin said, with honesty and hard work and showing up even when it scared you. We built it, together, all three of us. As the last guest filtered out and Lou started cleaning up despite their protests, Gavin pulled Vivian onto the small dance floor for one last dance. No music played, but they swayed together anyway, Lily joining them in the middle, the three of them moving in their own rhythm. This is it, isn't it? Vivian whispered. This is what happiness actually looks like. Yeah, Gavin said, holding his family close. This is it. And in that moment, in a diner in Rogers Park, where everything had begun, surrounded by the people they loved, they were complete. Not perfect. They'd still make mistakes, still struggle, still have hard days. But they'd face them together, with honesty and love and the unshakable knowledge that they'd found something precious. They'd found home. And home, it turned out, wasn't a place or a bank account or a penthouse view. Home was a janitor who knew how to see people, a brilliant girl who understood that family was about choice, and a lonely billionaire who'd finally learned that the best things in life couldn't be bought, only earned one honest moment at a time.